do it live. We're back. We're back. I'm back. Not we. Just me this time. Just me and you. Yeah, so Sun is not with us today. I'll probably be explaining this several times. Sun has a new job. So he will no longer be able to join us on Takeover Tuesday, which is unfortunate. Not necessarily for him, but for us. Because it's always fun to have him along. My glasses are foggy. But yeah, so his new schedule prevents him from being available at this time. So that's our loss. But I now have to figure out how to do all the mechanical stuff behind the scenes, which I don't think it should be too hard. It's just always nice to have a second set of eyes, a second pair of hands. But we should be just fine. Hello, Yobi, Alex, Spurso. Good to see everybody. Yeah, so we'll be doing takeovers. Might be a slightly slower pace than normal without Sun to run the wheel, but it's not that tricky. It's, it's like 2 commands. So we're going to be just fine. Patent Teacher 63, aloha. Are you from Hawaii? I have family in Hawaii. On Maui. It's a rough year in Maui. But they're doing the best they can. They're pulling together. Things are getting better. Sun is still with us on the picture. I don't know what's going on with my video right now. Hang on a second. How's the video quality? Is the video quality suffering? I'm getting an error message. Yeah. Hawaii is a pretty magical place. I have been, I want to say 5 times now, something like that. Because he lives there and I go to visit, family. It's quite a haul. About 12-hour flight if you do it directly. I rarely do it directly. Normally I stop over somewhere, Utah, California, Texas, somewhere. Looks grainy to you. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a message here about the video resolution. I have not changed a single setting. And we've streamed with these exact settings, I don't know, 20 times and never had a problem. But now I'm getting an error message. And it could be that there's an update to OBS that has changed something. So let's go ahead and take a look. Hey, Kai. Let's see. I don't see anything that indicating a problem here. Hey, Demon King. Hey, NYC. Good to see you all. You pulled the epic needed for the fusion. Congrats. That's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. It might be some kind of interaction with my monitor that wasn't registered before, but seems to be okay. Yeah, once you pull You got duped by 1+1. Pulled 12 sacreds, now you're 19 deep into Mercy, and you're feeling so relaxed now. Yeah, well, the good news is you'll get it, right? But nice, you got Wallmaster and Tatura. Very nice. Hey, Carefless. Yeah, that's true. There have been some people who have pulled Wixwell, which is nice. Now, I always wonder, like, let me start as a poll. Let me do this as a poll, because I'm curious as to the prevailing attitude here. I'm just curious. If you pulled Wixwell from a shard, would you still fuse them? Because there's certain fusions where I would say absolutely. Like if you had pulled Armand's, I would have fused another copy. Like if I had pulled Newt, I would have fused another copy. If I had pulled Helicath, I would have fused another copy. You know, there are a whole bunch of champions that if I had pulled them from a shard during the fusion, I still would have used another copy. With Wixwell, I'm just curious what the prevailing opinion is, because I think I would probably fuse another copy. I would probably still do the extra fusion. Now, every account's different, so I'm not saying that you have to, right? Like, obviously you don't. And a lot of accounts won't have the resources to build 2 copies. Now, if you get 2 copies of Newt, find the resources, build your second copy of Newt. Don't mess around there. But with other champions, you know, it's like, let's say you have 2 duchesses. It's like, how important is the second one? Like, that's a really, really good champion. You could definitely get value out of it, but if you're a free-to-play player and you don't have a ton of legendary tomes, how valuable would a second copy of a champion you already have, even a really good one like Duchess, be versus like booking out a brand new champion like Wixwell? Like, if you booked out Duchess but you couldn't book out Wixwell, would that be a good trade-off? It's hard to say, right? Again, every account's different. Hey, Bagpuss. If you pulled an epic, you can skip up to 4 additional events or tournaments. One thing to consider, and this is actually not a small consideration, is which ones and where, you know, like how are you going to do it? So let me see if I can actually pull this up. Okay. So like if you take a look at this and you're like, okay, I pulled an epic. Now I can skip up to 4 events. And if you scroll all the way, you know, forward to the end, okay, so there's like the tournaments are easy, right? These in terms of energy are relatively low energy investments, only around 2,000 energy, whereas a Dungeon Divers event is 5,000 energy. But when you look at this, you're like, okay, Fire Knight tournament and Spider tournament, if I'm doing those, I can put those both in this Dungeon Divers event. That's 4,000 energy. That's only going to take me an additional 1,000 energy to finish this out. Right? So now it's like, well, if I have the extra epic, maybe I don't want to spend the shards during the summon rush. So let's not pull during this. That means we're going to miss a rare. We don't care about missing the epic because that's not part of the calculation anyway, right? You don't need that epic to complete the fusion. Well, you're going to do the classic arena takedown. So then you've got these 2 artifact enhancement events. You can skip those, and each of those is going to save you 15, 20, 22 million silver. So I think those are the ones to skip. Additionally, there's a champion training tournament. Now, with a traditional fusion, the thing about champion training is you still have to level up the rares. You have to fuse them into the epics. You have to level up the epics. You have to fuse them into the legendary, right? So it's like you're going to be doing some champion training anyway. And often in a champion training tournament, there's a legendary tome that you can go for if you go past, you know, the fusion reward. So you could skip that. You could skip that and not do any champion training. Just don't worry about it. Grab whatever free rewards come your way for just doing the fusion champions. Or you could skip that. So you'd be skipping a summon rush, a champion training, and 2 artifact enhancements, and probably doing this Dungeon Divers. Here's where the issue comes in. This is what I want to warn people about. You can always mess up, right? You have 4 event leeway. right? But if you mess up and you miss one of those 4, like if you just skip 4 and then you miss one outside of those 4, you're going to miss the fusion. Now, the good news is you have this artifact enhancement event on the last day, and all that takes is silver. So what I would say is this. If you plan on skipping this artifact enhancement event and then you mess up somewhere else, you can always do the artifact enhancement event to get back one last rare, one last copy of the rare. So it gives you a little bit of insurance if you plan on skipping this artifact enhancement event. If you plan on doing the artifact enhancement event and you're skipping, events in the middle here, that actually is riskier, right? Because then you have to make sure that you don't miss any. So what I would suggest is, like, don't skip anything that's currently going on. You know what I mean? Like, get towards the last few days and then skip, these artifact enhancements, the summon rush, and probably the champion training. Now, if you want to do the champion training, you could, and you have the flexibility to skip, one now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be perfect right now. But you could skip, this Dungeon Divers, I think, which is currently going on. That's basically it, actually. That's really your only other option, right? Because today is the 14th. So you're not skipping the Ice Golem. But, if you didn't complete the Dungeon Divers and you let that slide, then you could still, do this artifact enhancement or this artifact enhancement. That'd be okay, just skipping one event now. But in general, when you get lucky and you pull one of the epics or you pull a couple of copies of the rares, I tend to say to people, leave the last things off. Fuse it as early as possible. If you can fuse it by Friday the 17th, fuse it by Friday the 17th. Just get it done, and that way you've succeeded. So that's my suggestion. That's my suggestion for that. All right, I got to set up my screen here so I can see chat. My screen's going to do weird things. Wong. Faction Guardian is an option, yeah. Obviously, anytime you get... This is my main account. I've been playing 3 years. I'll show you my Faction Guardians for legendaries. I have some. But I don't have a ton. I've got one there in Banner Lords. I have all of my high elves. I've gotten so many high elves on this account. This is pure high elves account. Hey, Crop, good to see you, buddy. Smash that like button. Hey, Zonde. Good to see everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, so that one's pretty good. I got 1 here, 2 here. None. 1. Let's see. 2 here. None here. So this is, 2 here. This is 3 years in, right? On a free-to-play account. So there's still several factions where I have nothing. Right? And while I like Faction Guardians, I'm happy for the free resources, it isn't really until you get to the 3rd pairing where you're like, ooh, this is really helpful. You get that 30 accuracy and you're like, ooh, that's an end game stat. The 10% HP is not bad. The 10% attack is almost, who cares? I don't care about 10% attack at all. Even on attack-based champions, I'm 10% of a base attack for some champion. It's 150 maybe attack. This is the weakest one by far. And then you get to the end and you get 10 speed. And this happened to me a couple of times. When I got the when I got this and I got this 10 speed, this actually screwed up a speed tune for me. So I had to go back and change. I forget which speed tune it was. It might have been Dark Fae or something but I had to go back and or Bommel. I had to redo some speed tunes. That also happened to me when I got Cardiel, his 6-star blessing or soul or whatever, because when you get the 6-star, you get 15 speed. So he got 15 speed, and he was in 4 speed tunes, and it crashed all those speed tunes. I was like, ugh. So That happens. No biggie. Hey, Barry. Hey, Hamza. Okay, so let me go over this. So basically, you need to be a member of my Discord community. So there is a link to my Discord in the description of this video. Just go ahead and click on that. It'll take you over to my Discord. Now, on the left-hand column, you'll see all of the server channels, right? You want to scroll down until you see a section called the Coaching Corner. There are 3 channels in the Coaching Corner, one of which is the Wheel of Takeover. You want to go to the Wheel of Takeover. There is a message. There's just one message posted by my editor, whose name is Sun, or Aaron. If you like to call him Aaron, you can call him Aaron. You want to go ahead and react to that message. When we're ready, I'll go ahead and spin the wheel. So by reacting to the message, that adds you to the wheel. I will spin the wheel. The wheel is a random, name selector. And then we'll get our winner. Now, you can only win one takeover every 90 days. So if you've won in the last 90 days, don't react. Because if you do react and you win, I've got to do it all over again. Have your login information ready. So that means your email address and password. As soon as you win, send me a DM with your information so I can log in and start that process going. I will give you access to the Coaching Voice channel that I'm currently in. I want you to join that so that you can hear me in real time, because there's a 5 to 10 second delay with the live stream. So it's just faster if you join the channel. You want to mute the live stream and listen to me in Discord. And then you can just tell me what it is that you want in terms of a takeover. You won't be able to actually speak in the voice channel. You'll have to DM me what you want in the takeover, and we'll do the takeover. As for today, there's no real limitations on it. Just, how much time we actually have to spend on the account. So if there's any kind of takeover you want, feel free to ask. I'm better at certain kind of takeovers than others, although I'm getting better at all of them. I think the more experience I have with the takeovers, the better I'm doing. I'm getting a little bit better at Hydra. I feel decently confident with Hydra right now. Still not my area of expertise, but I do okay there. I like Clan Boss. Dungeons are always great. Rebuilding champions, arena rebuilds are fine. Gear cleanses, we haven't done one in a while, so if somebody wants a gear cleanse, that's fine. They're not fun, by the way. They're not fun at all for anybody. But I understand the relief when somebody else does a gear cleanse for you, so if you need one. Hey, LFC, good to see you. You only know the Dwarf King of Scorching Palms. I like it, Alex. Nothing off the table, Kai. Anything you want. JB. Pulled my only sacred on my original account, Mountain King with Tomb Lord as an extra. Nice. So here's the thing. This extra legendary is a trap, right? Because we have a summon rush coming up in a few days. But I have 19 sacred. And I only need 4 for the fusion. I don't know how close I am to Mercy. I have no idea. I don't even remember the last time I pulled sacred shards. It was probably during the last fusion event, which might have been happening like the week we were going to have our baby. So like my memory of the last month is very limited. Yeah, I have been super sleep deprived. So could I help you pick between your 3 accounts as a new player, Cameron? Well, what I would say is this. Take your 3 rosters, take screenshots of your 3 rosters, and post them in our Discord channel that is asking for roster advice. Okay, so there's all sorts of different roster advice channels you can do. General roster is probably where you want to put that. And then people will weigh in and let you know which account they think is the best to start. So that's what I would do. Our Discord is it's helpful in that way, so use it as a resource, because I just don't have the time to give everybody advice that I'd like to give advice to. I certainly try. You can always at Colred a message, that you put in the Discord, and I'll try to take a look at it and respond if I can. So that's the way we do that. Colred, what's your take on the Hydra Clash issues with Trunda? So, Jonathan, I'm not 100% sure of what you're talking about. I don't know if there's anything new that's arisen. My feeling as a free-to-play player is I don't care that much. I don't care that much about... Like, as a gamer, I don't like exploits. So when something is clearly broken, something is clearly imbalanced or not working as intended, I would prefer the developer fix it. Plarium has shown that they don't do that, right? They don't care. What they say is, if something's broken, we'll break something else to balance it out. So then it doesn't seem as broken when 10 things are broken. So they just are constantly breaking their own game, right? And the only time they really seem to fix things is when the fix would generate more income for them, when it would cause people to spend more money. So I accept that that's the deal right now. I don't like it. I'm happy to speak out against it. You know, I don't like the way the Plarium operates sometimes, and I will say so. But yeah, I'm not going to get too worked up over a particular champion anymore. Like, I think Armand's was a bad addition to the game. It feels like now at this point that Wukong is a really tricky addition to the game. I think I suspected that was going to happen when he came out. I like Sun Wukong as a character, and I like the monkey, and like I'm a fan of Wukong in like League of Legends, and I do like the champion. Like, he's fun on my account, but I would say he shows up in 95 or 99% of my live arena drafts, and that's just... And he's never going to leave unless they do something mechanically to change that. I don't like the fact that they create a lot of PvP login champions. Like, I wish they didn't do that. Like, Wukong and then Armand's. Like, these are OP arena champions. Artak was brilliant, right? Like, Artak was fantastic. That's the kind of champion I'd like to see, because I think, especially for free-to-play players, you want versatile champions, and they just keep creating problems in PvP because PvP generates money, right? The biggest whales and krakens are focused on PvP. So if they keep breaking PvP, people keep buying the new meta champions, or the new gear to counteract the broken champions or whatever. I don't love it. I don't love any of it. How am I on Fire Night Hard? Good question. I don't remember. What, stage 7 maybe? Stage 7. Yeah. This is just a matter of me having time to focus. I have the champions and the gear to get to stage 10. I just haven't done it yet. So this is my current team. And I probably don't need this team like this. Like, I'll probably swap this. I have a Neldor who's coming up, so I'll probably swap the Neldor in. And I might go like Lady Mikage and Neldor. Where's my Neldor? So this might be my final team, something like this. Double ally attack with Newt should be more than enough. I don't even know if I'll need the Yukarl, honestly. Maybe I'll swap him out and bring in, some more damage somehow. I could do something like I could do something like this. I could do that. Maybe that would work. You probably will need 4 Sacreds for the Summon Rush and 150 Mystery Shards. It's 2150 typically for the first tier of a reward, for the rare champion, 2150. For 500 points for a Sacred, 1 point for Mystery, so 2150, however you want to get to it. If you want to go all the way to the upper one, that's at, what did we say, 5400. So, but sometimes that lower reward is not at 2150. So, I would say you want to have 5 as a safety net. If you want to go all the way up to the other one, that's at 5,400. So that's going to be 11 shards. Or 10 plus some ancients plus some mysteries, whatever you want to do to get it. How do you decide which tourney to go to win for Relentless gear? Anytime I've got a shot at it and I don't have to overuse resources, I'll especially do it if, like, it's late in the tournament. You try to snipe, you know, often you don't just go ham. You see how the tournament unfolds. And if it's not really pushing too fast and you can kind of keep pace. Also, there are times where it's like the Relentless gear, you have legendary Relentless gear, or sometimes the win is only epic. Sometimes it's mythical. So you have to decide, you know, how valuable the Relentless gear is going to be. Yeah, if you look at the, let's see if I can pull this up. By the way, keep reacting. You want to make sure you react to the wheel of Takeover, because I'm about to spin. I'll spin in about 5 minutes. Okay, so if you come here to HH Gaming, you can go to past fusion events and you can look down. Now, if you scroll down, the last traditional fusion was Bamboo's 4-leaf. So you click on the here where it says here, and this will take you to his, like, a recap of his event, right? So takes you through all of this. You can see the calendar, but now here it breaks down day 1, day 2, day 3. And if you look at the calendar, you can see that the summon rush was on day 2. So here we look at day 2. The summon rush event was 2150 and 5400 points. The rare was at 2150. The epic was at 5400 points. Now, the number of points you get by pulling shards is always the same. It's always 500 for a sacred. So that would be 4 sacreds and then 150 mystery shards for the rare. And it could be 10 or 11 sacreds, depending on how you want to do it, for the epic, you know, plus whatever other shards you have and you want to pull. Now, there's no 2 times event going on, you know, so, and it doesn't matter anyway during a summon rush. You don't get points for, like, champion chase. You don't get champion chase points, you know, so you can't, like, fuse champions or summon fragment champions and get extra points. So you have to do this entirely with shards. The good news is you know exactly how many shards it's going to take, right? But the bad news is that it's at this time around, it's at the end. So, like, you have a couple of days to pick up some more shards. But if you don't have the shards, you know you're not going to make, you know, like, if you can't make the 2150, you're in trouble, right? Because you need every single rare. There are no extra rares in this event. So the only way to get an extra champion, the only way to get ahead, is to go to the 5400 and get that epic. Well, that's the only guaranteed way. The other way is when you're just pulling shards, like you pulled shards this last weekend. Maybe if you pulled, you know, one of the epics there, then you just got lucky from a shard. You could also pull void shards to try to get copies of the rare, which I wouldn't recommend. I don't think pulling void shards is a good idea. I only pull void shards during 2 times events, especially as a free-to-play player. Hey, JB Bono. Welcome to Barbarian. The horde grows. Oh, look at this. Now you're looking. See, I have this error message. You need to change the video resolution. I don't know. I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do. Joshua, what I would say is this. If you just need some coaching help, you have a few options, but reach out in the Discord. Like, post some screenshots, ask some questions. Use our Discord as a resource, because there are a lot of experienced players who would be very willing to help. One of the tricky things about a takeover during a fusion event is you may not have the resources to spare for a real takeover. I can't rebuild champions unless, let's say, we're already, like, I think there is there artifact enhancement going on right now? No, artifact enhancement doesn't start for another 14 hours. So, like, rebuilding champions doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, if you're struggling with Ice Golem tournament, I could help you out. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I'm really struggling there. But otherwise, this is kind of the thing where it's like, we don't want to do a lot of rebuilds on this Tuesday. And if you don't have a lot of silver, you're going to need that silver for the artifact enhancements. So I wouldn't want to waste it during a non-artifact enhancement day. You're better off passing, right? Just passing and using the Discord as a resource. If you have a lot of resources, if you're very comfortable with the fusion, if you're not doing the fusion and you want to take over and I can use up your resources, this is a better day for it, you know? Island is nice. Triple Astralon. I appreciate that, JB. That's awesome. I know you've been watching the channel for a long time. I've been seeing your name for months and months. Hey, Swam, good to see you too. Yeah, Swam. You can start saving up for guaranteed voids. They happen so infrequently, and you don't know which one's going to be next. You know, so I've done the calculation, and I've thought to myself, I need to probably skip 3 2x void shard events in order to have the shards necessary to do a guaranteed. And that means we're talking about a minimum of 18 weeks, right? Basically, I mean 13 weeks technically, but 18. We're skipping 18 weeks. So, and it's still not a guarantee because if they go to like 150 void shards, I'm not going to get that in that time. That's going to take me another 4 weeks or so past that point. So we're talking about potentially not pulling for 20 weeks, 22 weeks. And during that time, I could have potentially pulled a void legendary that could move the needle on my account and help me. So, if I knew, for instance, like, let's say twice a year, they were going to offer like Sify or Yumiko or Krisk or something, then yeah, I would save because those champions would be worth waiting 6 months for. But I don't feel like, I ever know which one's going to come. So I just pull my shards during 2x void shard events. And if you look at my roster, this is what I've been doing for 3 years. It's like, okay, let's look at all of my void legendaries. Okay, so this was from a shard, right? So Cardiel was from a shard. And then we have fusion, shard, free champion, free champion, free champion, free champion, free champion. This Torment was that was the guaranteed champion, right? That was the champion event where we won the tournament. So that was a free champion. Shard, Doom Tower, shard, fusion. Actually, this one was the fusion in this one. So let's see. How many have I actually pulled from shards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've pulled 8 in 3 years, doing only 2x events. Now, in the 3 years, there've been something like 6 or 7 guaranteed, void legendaries. So it's really close. Do you know what I mean? Like the balance is pretty close. Hey, Wentworth. Yes, the faction guardians are specific to rarity. So when you go in here, the bonuses for the rare champions only apply to rare champions. So some people don't carry rare faction guardians because they just don't want rares in there taking up inventory space in the roster. Should you put Razzlevarg in Curse set for the Hex? So Artak is better than Razzlevarg for Cursed, right? Because when it comes to Artak, every attack is an AoE. So his A1 is an AoE, his A2 is an AoE, his A3 is an AoE. All of them are AoEs. So you're getting that AoE hex out, right? As far as Razzlevarg is concerned, his A1 is a triple hitter. It's a single target, right? The A2 is the AoE, and the A3 is an AoE. So you do have AoEs, but you don't have that A1 AoE. So it's probably good enough, especially if he's going fast. You know what I mean? It's probably good enough for a Hex. I don't think he's bad for a Hex. But Artak is one of the best champions of the game for a Hex, for a cursed set. If you want to build him that way, right? What I'm saying is he's one of the most effective at landing the curse. Not that you necessarily want to build him that way. So you could certainly do a Razzlevarg in a Hex in a cursed set. Yeah, you could. Just don't expect the same consistency as you get with Artak. It'll be a little bit reduced. This one's on a 3-turn cooldown. This one's on a 3-turn cooldown. So that means there will be a cycle where you will have to A1. And without the Hex up there, you won't be able to reliably land it on the Mischief Head. You can still pull a guaranteed, yeah. I mean, you can still pull a regular, like, you have the one-time chance, the normal chance, sure. As you're leveling up, though, if you don't have all the Void Epics, 2 times are better, right? You get 2 times chance at, Godseeker Aniri, at Ursula, at Demitha, at Maneater, at, all of the other great Void Epics, so. I have 1 mythical on my roster. I fused Lady Mikage. So, and I got the 1-star soul. I was hoping to get the 2-star soul, but I was just so busy having a baby. Or my wife was busy having the baby, and I was busy helping my wife have it. All right. So, let's go ahead and do a takeover. I'll give everybody 30 more seconds to sign up for Ooh, what happened to the message? There were a ton of reactions, and then they all went away. What happened? I know there were more reactions. I didn't reset it. Maybe Sun is hanging out. All right, so yeah, make sure you react to the message in Discord in the Wheel of Takeover. I'm going to give it 1 more minute, and then I'm going to start the show. Takes a little while to have our first takeover because it's good to talk to people and answer their questions. Say hi. Also, don't forget to like the stream. If you would, please, I'd appreciate it. I feel like this account's getting in a good place. I've got almost 6,000 gems back. I'm up to 50 million silver. I'm going to be able to do this fusion just fine. I've got 19 sacred shards, 7 primals. Doing okay. We didn't do well on the last 2 times ancient shard event, if anybody saw that video, but all right, we got our reaction. So now I got to figure out how to do this wheel here. Okay, the wheel. Oh, I think I know how to do it. Son, dude, I'm trying to do it. He is here. He is here. He deleted all of your reactions. But now he's added them up. Stark. How do I feel about the rate we can obtain primal shards as free to play? I think it's okay, actually. When it first came out, it was not good enough. They've added, they've boosted the shard drop, or the whatever they're called, crystal drop in Hydra Clash, which is good. I still think it should be a lot higher there. You've got Cintranos as a way to get additional pulls there. You can get some through, I think, Live Arena now, right? You got Live Arena. So it's okay. It's not quite right. It's not quite right. I think it should be tweaked a little bit. I think you should get... I mean, they're going to be revamping Hydra Clash participation rewards, so we'll see. We might even get a little bit more from there. And if they do that, that's good. I think they should change the rewards in Live Arena as well, because it takes 35 wins, which is a lot. Like, that's a lot. If you got a 50% win rate, that's a week. It takes you a week to win a chest. But in general, I think it's okay. I think it's getting to a better place. We've got a 2-factor authentication we got to wait for. Should just take a... Hey, Sauce. Good to see you. You've been playing 3 months and you've pulled 1 legendary from shards. Yeah, that sounds about right, Andrew Pierce. You know, that's not a great return. Like 3 months, you know, if you're lucky, you might have 4 or 5 legendaries. And if you're not lucky, you have 0. In the 93 days or whatever that the HH free-to-play challenge was this year, I pulled 2 legendaries from shards. All right, let me just see. Okay. Okay. Nice. Wallmaster's awesome. Hey, John Hodgson. Good to see you. Hey, Tonk. Michael Vick, it's bittersweet to pull Legos as a new player because you feel you have to buy books to use them. Yeah, there is that kind of pressure. I think as a free-to-play player, pulling too many legendaries early on can actually be detrimental because you focus too much on legendaries. You think legendaries are more powerful, right? That's the implication in the system of rarities, right? Like the more rare it is, the more powerful it is, which isn't always true, or more useful it is, which isn't always true, you know? Hello, Liam. I think the most value you're going to get as a newer player is out of Epic. You know, you want to pick your few epics, and because you can fully book them out, get them masteried, they're going to provide a lot of value. And then you focus on like 1 legendary at a time. And they may become kind of like gravity wells or something, you know, like they become this solid foundation that you then focus building your roster around. So your epics and your rares are kind of like satellites around, you know, your black hole of a legendary. But okay, so here we are in Stark's account. Let's take a look. Go ahead, Stark, send me a DM. Let me know what kind of account takeover you're looking for. We are on day 132, working our way towards Scylla of the Drakes in under 50 days. That's pretty good. Getting close. Let's go ahead and take a look at the roster. Okay, we have a relatively short roster here. I'm kind of curious. Let me open all of this. There should be more, right? Okay. Okay, that's more like it. Nice. So you've got an Armands, you've got an Adlin, you've got an Astrid. Okay. And then you've got 60s in the vault too. Here, you've got Geomancer and Deacon, the two best epics in the entire game, right? Both of those were just hiding in the vault. You did +1 your Geomancer. Now, this is something that we need to talk about a little bit, is that we have this new epic empowerment thing, which is cool. But do you get more value out of empowering a champion like Geomancer, or do you get more value out of building a second Geomancer? And that's hard to say. I think I don't have a personal preference because I don't have a Geo. But is there a lot of additional value to building a second Geo? I'd probably say early on, no. I think you're better off empowering. Because you have so many other things that you need, right? So like putting books into another Geo is not the most efficient use of resources, I think. You've pulled 5 Geos, but you don't have a Deacon? Oh, you got 2 Armands. Yeah. Okay. You need a little bit of help with everything. Clan Boss and Hydra and Champions equipment. Okay. You recently got your Arbiter, it looks like. Did you pull Arbiter from a shard, or did you complete your mission? You completed your missions. Congratulations. That's very nice. All right, so let's take a look at your champions here. So Armands is somewhat booked. You landed your 3 books into the A2, which is the critical skill, right? So you might be just saving there. You do have Lanicus, who is fully booked. That is Lanicus, right? Yeah, okay, that's Lanicus, not Blind Seer. Lanicus is awesome, by the way. You have Venus, who is fully booked. I mean, you've got Rathalos, who pairs really well with Venus. Totoro Rhymehide is your tank, but he's not booked. Rathalos is somewhat booked. Geo's fully booked. Deacon's fully booked. Fane, fully booked. Looks like Elhain was your starter. You got a Duke the Pierced, who's excellent. Arbiter is not booked, but that's okay. It's not critical to book her right away. She's built fast, dude. 288, which is nice. That's a pretty good place to be where you are right now. I mean, you can get more speed onto her, right? It's more important that you get more speed onto her. So, swap out these broken sets. Get some pieces if you can. Okay, triple roll of speed, double roll of speed, triple roll of speed. It's hard to get away from those. But, the long-term goal is to get her into 3 speed sets. You got a Farrakhan the Fat here, but you probably, Farrakhan is probably less valuable to you than he would be otherwise because you have Lanicus. Now, Lanicus teams up with 3 random allies. So it's not as predictable, right? Farrakhan, the whole team is going except for him. So it's a little bit more predictable in terms of who's attacking. And obviously they do different things, right? Like Farrakhan brings a decreased defense. He's got the HP burn and the poisons. He's got the increased crit rate, crit damage. So he's still valuable. I mean, it's a pretty good roster. It's a pretty good roster, and it feels like you're in a good spot. Now, you're building a Renegade. Are you building a Renegade for a particular reason, or just to have a Renegade? Like, is she going to help you with wave content, or is she going to be in there for a clan boss? Okay, for the Arbiter missions, gotcha. I mean, she's a good champion. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of uses for a Renegade. I was just curious if you had a use in mind. Yeah, Noct is interesting. I mean, honestly, like looking at the account, there are tons of epics you could think about using. You know, you have an interesting killable clan boss option. You have some interesting killable clan boss options. Because Lanicus has this increased duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Right? And you also have Anchorite, who increases duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. You have the Renegade, who has the reset. You know, you got Satora, you've got Geomancer. I mean, you do have some interesting options here. You've got the decreased defensive weaken, potentially with the HP burn, poisons. You've got some interesting options here. Let's take a look at your clan boss team. 4-key Ultra Nightmare. Okay. $19.7 on a 1 key. So if you could get 4 more million, right? You need 4 more million per key. To get your 3-key Ultra Nightmare. So here's the thing about this team. This team is a glass cannon team, right? Even with Geo, it's a glass cannon team. Like, the idea here is just do as much damage as possible. Now, here's the issue. Geo does more damage the longer he's in the fight, right? Like, he does better in long fights. Everybody else, maybe with the exception of Deacon, but everybody else is about pushing out damage as fast as possible. You've got the HP burn, which is going to activate Rathalos. He's not tanky. You've got Venus, who is doing all sorts of damage in different ways, right? The poisons, HP burns. She's not tanky. She's got the debuffs as well. So the weaken, the decreased defense. You've got Lanicus, who's the ally attacker. So she's pumping out damage fast. And as a result, you probably do a lot of damage per turn, but you don't last that long. Like, do you know how many rounds this team goes before it dies? $15 rounds, which is not a lot, right? That's very short. So that means you're getting, $1.25 million, $1.33 million, right? 1.3 million per turn, per round, whatever. Turn, I guess. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Now imagine if you could do, if you only need 3 or 4 more million, it's like, okay, what if you could get another 5 turns, right? What if you could get another 8 or 10 turns? So you could potentially drop off the amount of damage you're doing in order to, like, per turn, in order to extend the life of your team. So, you know, there's this balance. It's like either, it's not even either. Glass cannon is as much damage per turn as possible, and you don't get that many turns, right? If you go really, really tanky, like you're trying to stay alive as long as possible, but you're doing very little damage per turn. And then there's the spectrum in between those two extremes. And this is in a killable composition, you know, not an unkillable. So this is a traditional composition. So when I see a composition like this and I'm looking at 4 damage dealers, my first thought is, well, let's experiment with bringing in a little bit of extension. Let's try to extend this fight a little bit. But then everything you bring out, you have to think about what you're sacrificing. So if we bring out Geo, right, we're losing the reflect, right? We're losing his passive. If we pull out the Lanicus, we're losing the ally attack. If we bring out the Rathalos, we're losing his, you know, extra damage that he gets from all the his passive and his extra attacks and stuff, or his, you know, his other passive, both of his passive. And then if we lose Venus, we lose the, you know, sort of the consistent, like, boss killing damage. But, you know, we can sacrifice some of that. So let's go look at these champions for a second individually. I want to look at Venus. Now, Venus has a really nice kit, right? Each hit has a 50% chance of landing a 5% poison. So extra attacks on Venus work really well. Those are more poisons. That strikes me as like, okay, think Lanicus with the ally attack and then Venus with the A1, right? So that's nice. She's got a decreased defense and weaken on the same skill. She's void affinity, so you're not going to weak hit, right? Now, you have a decreased defense from Rathalos. You have a weaken from Geomancer, right? He lands a weaken on his, on his A3. Rathalos's decreased defense is not guaranteed. It's 50%. You know, so it's like, okay. She's got an HP burn, so she's got poisons, HP burn, decreased defense, and weaken. Her passive doesn't play. She has a brimstone as well. Let's look at your land. Where's Lanik? It's not guaranteed on boss. It's irresistible on the boss, right? If the target is a boss, this debuff cannot be resisted, but it's still only a 50% chance. So it's not guaranteed on the boss. It just doesn't require accuracy. So, you know, the first champion I'm thinking about is Tatura Raimon. All right, Tatura brings in a ton of defense for your team. You have a perfect veil, which is 15% damage mitigation. You have the shield, which is damage mitigation, right? You have a block debuffs and an increased defense. All of that, like the block debuffs is going to allow you to not get stunned potentially. The increased defense is going to increase everybody's survivability. The decreased accuracy doesn't really play, but this is a champion. Oh, and he also reflects damage. The reflect damage doesn't do a ton of damage. So Tatura feels really good. Now, here's the other reason why Tatura feels pretty good. It's because Lanicus has this buff extension. Increased duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So what that means is potentially you extend that perfect veil. You extend that block debuffs. You extend that increased defense, right? The downside right now is that Tatura isn't booked. That's an issue, right? Now, it feels like Venus and Lanicus work really, really well together. Venus gives you all the debuffs you need in terms of damage, decreased defense, and weaken, gives you the poisons, gives you the HP burns, has the poisons on the A1, so that works with Lanicus's ally attack. She's going to give you some sustain with continuous heals. She's got the increased crit rate and increased attack buff on all allies. The extra turn, like, we don't care about the extra turn mechanic right now. We're not speed tuning for a perfect whatever. Like, if she gets extra turns, great. You could put her in a relentless set and even push that further. Like, go for a full relentless set and try to get her. Like, you don't care as much about her crit rate and crit damage. You don't need 100% crit rate on her, right? What she does is she enables. Now, you want crit rate if you can, but my point is, like, you don't worry about her damage. Yes, you know, she places this continuous heal if the attack is critical. It's only on herself, right? It's not incredibly useful. Because she has this increased crit rate buff and an increased attack, you actually can build her with 70% crit rate. Like, she doesn't ever need 100% crit rate anyway, you know, so you could drop this all the way back to 70. And she's going to have value, you know, for that for most of the time. You could even do that with Venus if you wanted to. Now, you might use Venus in other content, so you might want her at 100%. But what I would say is this. Probably the first champion I would pull is Rathalos. I would try swapping into Tura Reinhardt for Rathalos. I would try getting Lanicus into a full Relentless set. I would hold on to Geo. I would keep Geo in for a couple of reasons. He removes buffs from a target enemy, so he can remove the increased attack buff on the boss, which is nice. Maybe I would pull Geo. The problem with the Geo is the HP burn. He's not always going to land the HP burn because Venus is going to land her HP burn, and that's going to counter out his passive. Although it's only some of it, so it might not matter. We have a decrease attack. I like Duke the Pierce. So decrease attack is going to extend the life of your team as well. And so you want a consistent one. The issue with Duke the Pierced is that he's just an affinity champ, you know, so you can potentially weak hit, but I think he's better than Fane. And the reason I think he's better than Fane is because I don't think you need the decreased defense in the weekend. She's going to hit harder, but she's very squishy, and she's potentially going to die. He's a defensive-based champion, and we're trying to get tankier, right? You have options. You could keep Geo in the team, and you could pull Venus. He brings your weaken. Deacon Armstrong brings your decreased defense. He's going to be your HP burn. He's going to have the reflect damage. But because you're going so few turns, like, I don't know. But you could build around Geo, and you could add Tatura Rhymehide. If you were going to do that, the question is, do you hold on to Lanicus, or at that point, do you just bring Rathalos back in? So then it would be Deacon, Tatura, Rathalos, Geomancer, and then, how do you improve that? I would say bring in Renegade, right? Get the reset. She's got a she's fully booked, so she's on a 5-turn cooldown. She's going to reset Tatura's skills. She's going to reset Rathalos' skills. You could go that way. That could work. That could work. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how you do this without like building new champions, right? So I'm not really looking at your 50s. I'm just thinking about the 60s, 80s. So I would try that configuration. And then I would try the configuration of Deacon, Tatura, Lanicus, Venus, and probably Duke the Pierced. I would try that configuration as well. So you kind of have two options. A lot of this is going to be experimentation, right? You gotta see what works based on the gear that you have and all sorts of that. If you do go in that direction, I would say the thing that you want to do with Lanicus, remember that Lanicus gives you, she gives you this buff, right? This extra damage, increase crit rate, and increase attack. So that allows you to build champions a little bit differently. If you take her out of the team, you don't have that. Also, you have that buff extension, which I think really works well with the Tatura Rhymehide. And if you're going to have Lanicus, I think you want Venus. So I like this trio with Deacon, and then you want a decrease attack champion, and Duke the Pierce is probably your best decrease attack champion. You could try it with Fane instead, or you could switch Fane and Duke based on affinity. So you want to be reliable. So when it's Force affinity, you put in Fane. When it's Spirit or any other affinity, you put in Duke. You could try that. That's where I would start. That's where I would start. You have another option, moving forward, where you could go with Farrakhan the Fat, get a second ally attacker in there, right? He's got the crit rate and crit damage. So does she, right? So, well, she doesn't have the crit damage, so you'd get an extra buff. But 2 ally attackers, he's got the HP burn and the poisons, the decreased defense. You still need the decreased attack. I think decreased attack is incredibly important for your team. If you don't take anything else away from this, I would say decreased attack is incredibly important for your team. You want it consistently up as close to 100% of the time as you can, because it'll allow the sustain that you do have to last longer. And just a decreased attack with nothing else, if you can keep it up, it might give you 5 extra turns. Just a decreased attack. Might even give you more than that. Might give you 6 or 7 turns. And so if you're dropping, if you're dropping, say, 15% damage, but you're getting 25% or 30% more attacks, like more turns, you're going to end up with more damage. You turned off Venus's A3 because you had Geo. Yeah, you could do that too, right? I mean, that's fine. If you want to keep Geo and Venus in the same team, you can do that. And you could just try those 5. Then you could go Deacon, just swap in Tatura Rhymehide for Rathalos. Just pull Rathalos and put Tatura Rhymehide in. Now, Rathalos is great. I'm not saying he's a bad champion, and he can work very well as a clan boss damage dealer. But there are, I think, 2 reasons why I would pull him first. The first is that his synergy with the rest of your built champions is not as high. Like he gets the HP burn synergy, but like in terms of debuffs and all the other skills that he brings, it's not as high. You don't have the 4-star blessing on him, right? So you don't get the extra crit damage. Not that that's bad. He can still hit hard. But I think this is just pure damage, and he's the easiest to bring out to like then replace with something to extend that life. And honestly, you don't need 4 damage dealers. Like you can get by with 1 damage dealer. If you have a really good, well-built team and you can get, 38 turns or something, you can 2-star Ultra Nightmare with 1 damage dealer. Like, Geo can do it by himself with no other damage dealers, with just 4 supports whose entire purpose is keeping Geo alive. So I don't think you're there. I mean, clearly you're more on the glass cannon side, but I would say, you know, Tatura's the champion to bring in. Unfortunately, he's not booked. I also think the build is a little bit wonky, right? Like, you're going to not build this champion for damage. Get those Slayer sets off. You know, what you want here is probably, like, you could go for regeneration. You could go just, like, a lot of defense. You could go Stalwart gear would be really good. Stalwart gear would be really good. Anything that extends the life of your champion. So, you know, defense set would be good. Speed sets are okay. You don't need accuracy, really. Or you only have this decreased accuracy debuff, and that doesn't matter. All the other things are just buffs. So, same thing with the freeze. Like, you don't care about the freeze. So I would go pure defense. Let's see. What would be really good? A really good set for Tatura. I mean, regen would be fine. Immortal would be fine. Because you're not speed tuning, actually, Relentless wouldn't be awful. You could put him in a toxic set if you wanted to get a little bit more poisons out there. Immortal, yes. Resilience is okay as a filler set. Gives you nice stats. Guardian would be okay. You don't have an ally protector. So if you wanted to give a little bit more protection to the rest of your team and you can find a good Guardian set, you could put Tatura in a Guardian set. Now, Tatura is the one who's going to take the most damage anyway, so I don't know if that's the best, but it's definitely something worth like considering. Bolster? Yeah, Tatura could work in Bolster. The shield doesn't really play in Clan Boss, but once you build Tatura, you're going to want to use them in as many places as possible, and that Bolster set could work in some other places. Impulse would work. Impulse would work on him. Supersonic could work. You know, resistance, HP, speed. It's fine. You know, I don't think it's high priority for Supersonic. I would probably start with Guardian and Immortal. I would do 4-piece Guardian, 2-piece Immortal, and try that. And then if you had protection accessories, like if you could get to this 15% HP, or if you could get all the way to the 12% speed, I might try that. But if you can't, that's fine. That's probably where I would try. So yeah, the bolster set also gives you regeneration, but like the regen set is the best regen set, right? Because both bolster and guardian give you 10%, whereas regen gives you 15%. But you might not need the full 15%. You know, plus with the immortal, you get the extra 3. As far as, you know, a blessing is concerned, you have a couple of options here. Faultless defense is fine. This will do more damage, right? You get some damage reflection. Plus, he's already got damage reflection. Like, I understand why you picked Faultless Defense. But another thing you could do is you could actually change this over to Emergency Heal. And that gives him additional regen, especially if you're putting him in a Guardian set. You could potentially put him in Emergency Heal. He does have a shield, right? Places a shield on this champion for 2 turns. So every time that's broken, he's going to get a heal. If you have a blood shield ring, you could put a blood shield ring on. Every time that shield gets broken, you get an additional 3% heal. So I think Emergency Heal could add some sustainability to Tatura if Tatura struggles. But I think this is a really good champion for you. It's not an ally protector, right? This is not an ally protection champ, but it brings a lot. You have the increased defense, which is going to make everybody live longer. Block debuffs, which is going to mean you don't get stunned and you get more turns. You're going to get the perfect veil, which means everybody lives longer. You're going to get the shield on this champion, which, you know, by the way, if you speed tune this properly, you can make Tatura the stun target. Because by putting a perfect veil on everybody else, but not on Tatura, Tatura becomes the only targetable champion. And so Tatura can be a forced stun target regardless of affinity if you speed tune it. Now, speed tuning with Lanicus is really hard. You know, so if you were going the route with Geomancer, then this would be a speed tune that you could potentially create. You also have the option, by the way, this is something that you could do, which is you could pull Deacon, right? You could go at a 1-to-1 kind of speed tune and try to see if you could make that work and do something like Tatura, Duke the Pierced, Fane, Geomancer, and I don't know, Farrakhan or something like that. You know, you could go that route. It's okay. I don't know that I would try that first. I'd try that down the road if nothing else was working, but. So you're going to have to rebuild a few champions. One of the things I'm noticing about your, ooh, nice. One of the things I'm noticing about your champion builds is you have a lot of broken sets. Everybody's in a broken set. Every single champion. You don't have anybody who's built fully in unbroken sets. Not one champion that's built, right? Which strikes me as you're an optimizer user. You use HH's optimizer? Yeah. So here's the thing about the HH optimizer. It's a tool. It's a tool in your kit, and you want to like educate yourself on how to use it to the best effect over time on your account. So what I mean by that is when you use the optimizer, for the most part, it looks at the one champion that you're looking at, and then it takes in your input about, gear you can steal from other champions or you lock out other champions, and then it does it all based on stats, but it doesn't build it based on like a wide view of your roster. So you can you can almost always get more stats into your roster by selectively using the optimizer and then manually building champions. So, when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, you got a triple speed roll here, you got a triple speed roll here. But what happens, like, let's just use this as an example. I don't know if we can do this, but let's go ahead and try this. So let's just start with these 4 pieces. We're going to go to substat, speed, and we're going to look at speed and divine speed. Let's start down here. Okay. Let's do a quick. Based on where you are, I'm going to assume that your current build is pretty close to how you would max out. All right, so I'm looking at this chess piece right now. Now, this chess piece has 11 speed, right? And you can see you're giving up 8 speed from the chess piece that you have. And the chess piece that you have may be better. It's a HP-based chess piece or something. But let's go ahead and try that on. This is not glyphed, by the way. I'm assuming your Relentless is. Now, your Relentless is flat HP with some good speed on it. But that could potentially go into a Relentless set, right? Like it could allow somebody to complete a Relentless set, which it's not currently doing. So let's just look at that. So, okay, that's bringing 19 speed. This is bringing 11 speed. But we could glyph this up to, say, 15, right? So now we're only giving away 4 speed. Now let's go and look at, one of the other pieces. Say, okay, I know we've got some fast pieces there, but let's go ahead and look at the weapon. All right. So now this weapon has 14 speed, right? And the weapon that you're currently running has 25 speed, right? But if we swap that in, we've only so we've swapped these two pieces. We've only lost 4 speed. Now this speed is not glyphed. This speed is not glyphed. So we can get faster than your 288, right? We can actually, let's say we get 4 speed per glyph. We'll pick up 8 speed. We get to 292. We will have picked up 4 speed overall. Now we've lost a little defense, a little HP. We've picked up a little attack. We've gotten some resistance, which is nice. We've lost a little bit of accuracy, which is not nice. But again, we haven't glyphed all of this, right? You know, so we can do that. So now you're like, okay, so what's the benefit? What's the real benefit of swapping these other than the 4 speed that you're going to get? Well, first of all, on Arbiter, obviously the 4 speed matters. Like every little bit of speed matters. And if you went with a big glyph, you know, you could potentially get 5 speed there and 8 speed here. You could get 13 speed. You could end up, you know, plus 9 speed. So that matters. But the other thing that matters is we have a relentless chess piece that's very usable that is now free. We have an impulse weapon that is very usable that is now free. And remember, this is a two-piece artifact set, right? So again, we could go back to this and say, okay, let's do this, take this off, put this on, try this on. Here we're at the speed, but now we've got the set piece. We've got the set bonus of a 12% chance to reduce a random skill cooldown by 1 turn. That could be her revive. It could be her, you know, increased turn meter. It could be whatever. So you got a 12% chance of getting back around to this. Plus, this still isn't glyphed. So you're going to get speed here. Maybe again, you get about 4 speed. So you're getting faster and you're getting a set bonus and you're freeing up a piece that could go elsewhere. You know, and again, so let's look at this. Now let's go ahead and look at the gloves. Let's see if there's a glove in the speed set that we like. Let's go ahead and roll this one up. Get a double roll in the speed here. Come on, let's do this. All right. So, you know, this one's got 9 speed. But again, you see, even though we're losing speed to the glove that we're replacing, this is immortal. Where's immortal? So this is the glove we're taking off. This one has 22 speed. This, I got it. Sorry, I'm just realizing. Let me. Nope. So I'm looking at this piece here, right? This only has 9 speed, but it's in a speed set, so you're getting 12% additional speed. She has a base speed of like 110, right? So you're getting an additional 13 speed from the speed set. So the 13 plus the 9 is 22 speed. We're swapping out a piece that has 22 speed, right? So it's like we're actually getting more there. How are we getting more there? We're getting more than 20. I don't know. But anyway, so you can see now we're up to 291, right? This hasn't been glyphed. This hasn't been glyphed. This hasn't been glyphed. We're talking about over 300 speed here. You can easily get to 302, 303. You've now got an impulse set that is active. You have freed up that great fast immortal set for somebody who actually needs regen, because Arbiter doesn't. She's not a regen champion. Put those 2 pieces on your Tatura Rhymehide that you're putting into your clan boss team, because we're talking about putting a guardian set with a immortal set. So you freed up these 2 awesome immortal pieces, right? Really fast immortal pieces. Put these on a solo champion who needs to go really fast. Put these on Tatura Rhymehide who needs to go fast in clan boss. Put this on a Hydra champion who needs some sustain. You know, you could put this on Geo, right? If you had to. Obviously, Geo needs accuracy, so you don't want to, but they both have accuracy. Great. So what happens here is as you're individually building one champion, you're thinking not only about how do I get that champion faster, because Arbiter needs to go fast, but how do I also use the pieces that Arbiter currently has on to go fast in other ways on my roster? And the optimizer can't think of that. It's never considering that. Like the fact that I've freed up a relentless piece and the fact that I freed up 2 immortal pieces, fast immortal pieces, I know my roster. I know where they can go. Right? Yeah, it's probably Lore of Steel. Right. Correct. Thank you. So, yes, this is a crit damage gauntlet. That's not awesome. By the way, it's not rolled up all the way. You might get a double roll here into speed. You might get a triple roll into speed. It's like, yes, the crit damage is a bit wonky. I would look for another, gauntlet in the future, or you could take this one. This is only 1 speed difference, and this is defense, and that's what she needs. So you can give away the 1 speed here, right? And get the defense. Run this up, you'll get all your defense back. Run this up, you're going to get resistance. This attack, double roll and attack isn't awesome. Again, look for a chess piece in the future, maybe. Or do this one, right? Like your Astrid is 5 stars. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Right, now Arbiter's actually tankier than she was before, because when you run this up to 6 stars, when you run this up to 16, she's going to have all the defense. She's going to have more HP. She's going to have more speed. She's going to have, the same resistance. You lose a little bit of accuracy here. And she's going to have the impulse chance. Now, maybe the impulse chance isn't critically important on Arbiter. Maybe that impulse chance is more valuable on Lanicus, right? For Lanicus, we talked about getting her in a relentless set, like getting back around to that ally attack, getting back around to that buff extension, right? That A2 is so important. Getting back around to that skill. So imagine throwing her in impulse with relentless, right? Like that'd be crazy. She gets the extra speed. She gets the chance of cooldown reduction. She gets the chance of an extra turn, right? She doesn't need accuracy. She doesn't have debuff. She's just buffing her team. So go ahead and pull these impulse pieces off of Arbiter, put them on Lanicus, and instead of the impulse pieces, look for speed pieces or divine speed pieces. Or maybe if you had to, you could actually go for, I don't know if you have any righteous. You don't have any righteous. Or at least you don't have any righteous with speed. But if you found righteous pieces in the future, you could do that. Or even perception if you had to, right? Because Arbiter could use a little accuracy. She lands a weaken, she has the debuff removal. So the thing that always drives me nuts about the HH optimizer is that it lacks vision for your roster. It lacks vision for like problem solving. It doesn't know where the puzzle pieces are going. It's just literally saying these 6 pieces fit together for the stats that you're asking me about. So it's a tool. It can't provide judgment, right? And like I look at this build and I think to myself, this is a better build than the one we had. Right? Once I glyph this out, I'm going to get 10 additional speed from my old build. I've got an impulse set that now works. I freed up my relentless chess piece. I freed up my immortal pieces for other champions. This is better for my roster. And I have a vision on how to improve it further. I'm looking for a 6-star speed boot. That's going to give me 5 more speed. I'm looking to replace these impulse pieces with speed pieces, right? Which could potentially give me maybe more speed here. I mean, it's the same. It's 12% is 12%. But maybe this could free up the impulse for somewhere else in my roster where the impulse matters more. That whole vision, right? I'm looking at the banner and I'm thinking, this banner's pretty good. Double speed, 5-star. What about a 6-star, right? What about a 6-star that's got a double speed roll? What about a 6-star that's got a triple speed roll? That's where I'm looking for. Like I could get another 5, 8, 10 speed there, And I also think about my glyphs. Like on this one, you have a 5-star banner with a double speed roll and you used, I don't know what glyph you used, but you got to 3. Right? You could use a 5-star glyph here and try to get to 5. It's not bad. Typically, I try to save 5-star and 6-star glyphs for triple rolls if I can. Sometimes I use them on double rolls if I need them for specific builds. Yeah, Kai, it doesn't look at gear you could roll up to meet the stats you need. That's true. You can choose the sets that you're looking for with the HH Optimizer. It's a very good tool. I don't want to say it's not, but it doesn't replace your judgment. It doesn't replace your understanding about where all your gear is, what your roster needs. Like it doesn't, you can't tell it what your roster needs. You can tell it what your champion. But think about the fact that like we had a relentless piece. That's a good relentless piece that happens to be fast. And so when we prioritize speed, we pull a relentless piece and we put it on Arbiter. It's got 19 speed. Awesome. Awesome. This is a great piece for somebody else. It's a great piece for a tank, right? Flat HP, you got percentage defense. The crit damage is kind of a waste, but like as a relentless piece, this is a really good mid-game relentless piece. I don't want this broken. I don't want my relentless. I have very little relentless gear, right? So let's go ahead and look at our relentless gear. Those are my pieces, right? Like even if we go, let's go to equipped. Is anybody running a relentless set? No, but how many relentless pieces are being used? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What's the value of a relentless set? It's an 18% chance of an extra turn. That's the primary reason to have this, not for the stats, but for the extra chance, right? So, and any relentless piece that has a speed substat, especially if that speed substat rolls, can be used even if it's like flat. It doesn't matter if it's awful. You know, like if it has speed, you just get around to that extra chance to use the skills, which is what you want. So, you know, that's a nice piece, right? 18 speed there. So if I'm looking at Lanicus, I'm like, okay, let's see. Like that's a pretty good piece for Lanicus. This would be a little bit faster. Either one works. But so I go to Lanicus and I'm like, all right, I want Lanicus in a relentless. I want her in a relentless set. So let's go look at relentless pieces. Let's start with speed boots. Let's see if there are speed boots in the relentless set. Great. It's got stats. Who cares? I don't care. 6-piece speed boots. Literally doesn't matter what the stats are, right? For her, it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and try those on. Yeah, we got the chest piece. Now let's look for gloves that are either HP or defense based, and we want speed on the substat. Here we've got this. It doesn't look like you're using Reliquary Tender for anything in particular. This is fairly tanky. It's got a little bit of resist, some speed. Let's go ahead and try that on. Now let's look at these three. We want substat of speed. That's okay. Triple crit rate is probably not important for her. You could roll that. Resistance is decent. HP, defense, and speed. This is a really nice piece for her. Double speed resistance. So I would probably roll this one up and just take it. Now you've got your relentless set with the speed set. She just got faster. She dropped all her crit rate, which doesn't matter. We don't care about her hitting that hard. She lost a little bit of defense, gained a bit of HP, so she's probably a little bit tankier than she was before. She's got more attack, which is going to mitigate the crit damage loss a little bit. But what does she have now? She has a relentless set. Why do we care about the relentless set? Because it's got an 80% chance to give her an extra turn, which is going to allow her to get back to that ally attack. That's where that damage comes from. She doesn't need to hit hard in order to increase the damage of your team. Her ally attack increases the damage of her team, right? You come around, okay, so this is, you know, this can still be rolled up. It can still be glyphed. You know, you can still glyph some extra stuff here. You know, so this is really nice. This is really nice. The same speed, but more utility, right? A little bit more speed, tiny little bit more speed, a little bit tankier. Great. You could probably glyph some of the defense back. You know, you're still going to get more HP here as this goes up. You got a defense percentage glyph, an HP percentage glyph, a speed glyph here. This helmet is really nice. You still don't know where the last 2 rolls are going to go. So this could go like 1 into defense and 1 into speed or something. All of a sudden, you're going to end up a head-on defense and a head-on... Like, you could still pick up more. But I think just where she is right now, even without glyph, this is really, really nice. I want to take a quick look at your... Yeah, so potentially... I think this amulet's okay. You know, unfortunately, it's got a triple roll and a crit damage, which is weird. Like, it's just weird. The banner doesn't have any speed on it, so you could potentially get her into a banner with some speed. You know, I would probably focus on defense or HP, depending on, you know, what the good banner is. I wouldn't worry about resistance on her, because if you're using her as a clan boss champion primarily, you really just care about the block debuff buff that Tatura Rhymehide is bringing, and then the buff extension to try to keep it up as often as possible. Now, one of the things that'll happen is if she's in Relentless, she'll outrun her buffs. You know, because she'll get extra turns, and then her buffs will drop. So that's why you want her really tanky. You could potentially think about not putting her in a Relentless set, putting her in more of like just a cooldown refresh set. You could just go Impulse and Reflex. You could do that instead, which would probably be better for Clan Boss specifically, because then she won't outrun her buffs. But like as an all-around thing, right? Like in all content, I think Relentless is great. But it adds an extra RNG, right? It adds some extra RNG. So if you want really consistent runs, I would say, you know, you can go Impulse, go Reflex. But what you're seeing here is, again, what the optimizer doesn't do, right? It doesn't conceive of a team and think about how to increase the utility of the team. So, you know, that Relentless set gets you around to this potentially a lot faster, right? An Impulse set would as well. You'll get more continuous heals out. Well, I mean, you're losing the critical rate, but whatever. So that's something I think you can do. You know, rebuilding champions with an eye towards how your entire roster operates in all places is a skill. And it takes a lot of experience and time and thought to do that really, really well. And I think for players in the mid game, it's tiring to try to do that. And the optimizer is a way to like shortcut some of that learning curve, to just build champions quickly in good stats, that it lets you solve problems, lets you find solutions for the different content in the game. The trick is you hit a wall. You hit a wall where you can make progress based on the champions in the account and the gear that you have, but the optimizer doesn't teach you how to push past that wall. And so this is where that manual building comes in. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. I spend tons of times, like this was all theoretical. I didn't change a single piece of gear. You can always bookmark this video, come back, watch it, rebuild if you want when you have some silver. You only have 1 million silver right now, so 1.6 million. So I didn't want to like spend your silver, especially if you're going for the fusion. But I do a lot of theoretical building. I love one of my favorite things in the entire game is this fitting room mechanic that they added that like 1.5 years ago or whatever. You know, it's been a while, but when I first started the game, they didn't have it. There was no fitting room. You just had to kind of do all the calculations in your head or on paper, you know? So coming in here and thinking about builds and looking at the pieces and remembering the pieces or writing down the pieces or taking screenshots, and then going to another champion and say, what pieces when I rebuild this champion, what pieces do I free up? What pieces come free? I'm putting Tatura in Guardian and Immortal. That means that this shield comes free. Who does this belong on? It's speed, crit rate, crit damage, and defense. Do I have a defense-based damage dealer who I would want in Relentless? Right? Maybe I do. Maybe I have a defense-based support or tank who needs crit rate for some reason. Holy crap, I do. I have... Where is he? I have Duke the Pierced. Why does Duke the Pierced... Like, why does that piece all of a sudden make sense for Duke the Pierced? Well, if he has a critical hit, he lands a decreased defense. He's a defensive-based champion. All of the stats matter. Crit rate, crit damage, defense, speed. Is Relentless set great for Duke the Pierced? Well, it allows you to get around to your provoke faster. You can use them in Hydra now, right? Like, this is on a 4-turn cooldown, but potentially you're going to get that faster. So maybe Relentless on Duke the Pierced is a good solution for Hydra. All right, so now Tatura's got a piece that it's coming off. That's going to go on Duke the Pierced. Duke the Pierced is now focusing on Hydra. I need accuracy on him. That's going to transition. So what are the pieces that are going to come free off of this? You know, it's like, well, I've got a lot of speed pieces here, but maybe, you know, I can take some of these speed pieces off, move them around, or I've got this freeze chest that's valuable for somebody else, or this toxic set, you know. Those are it's a domino effect. It's like everything you change allows you to change something else. And that's why I always, when I try to build, I always try to go and think about my sets and the value of not just the sets as stats, although that's valuable, but also the sets as utility. And the utility sets that are here that you have are, well, Fury and Days, yeah, but Cursed set. That's utility that you don't get out of the stats. Frost, utility you don't get out of the stats. You know, Relentless, a lot of utility you don't get out of the stats. Savage, utility you don't get out of the stats. These are things that like give you a bonus that doesn't exist in the stats, that can't be replaced with stats. Reflex, right? So I don't like breaking sets if I don't have to. You can break sets, and absolutely you should if there's a statistical advantage that is so significant that it becomes a solution. I need 275 speed. Well, why do you need 275 speed? Because that's the speed tune speed. What are you doing with that champion? It doesn't matter. It's an unkillable thing. Okay, so 275 speed. That's the only number that matters. I don't care about accuracy. Don't care about crit rate. Don't care about anything. I need 275 speed on my Demytha to make my team unkillable. And then literally I can break any sets I want to get her 275 speed because that becomes a solution. You know, it's probably like 300 speed, but whatever. You get the idea. That is when you want to break sets. Otherwise, you always want to put sets together if you can. It's not the most important thing, but it adds value to your account and to your roster. And don't feel bad, by the way. None of you should. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad about the way they geared their champions. This is about learning, right? About learning how to skill up. And gearing is incredibly complex in this game. It's really, really complex. And there are different philosophies. And you'll hear phrases like stats over sets. I hate that phrase. I did a whole video about it, got in a fight with people. Like, people thought I was an idiot for saying that. The problem with that phrase is not that it isn't true sometimes. It's that it's not the whole picture, right? And it's boiled down to this nice, like, easily consumable phrase that isn't really explained to new players. And the explanation that you get is not in depth enough to help you become a better player. It's enough to help you maybe a little bit with a solution. And then you have a tool like the optimizer that pushes that even further. And again, you're going to hit that wall. You're going to hit that wall. So don't feel bad. Just now look beyond that, right? There are times where stats over sets make sense. There are times when sets equal stats. Get a perception set, you're getting 40 accuracy and 5 speed out of 2 pieces. Use that if you can, right? And then there are other times where you have sets that give you bonuses that stats can't replicate. So you need to know all of those different kind of aspects of gearing, and that takes time. It takes time. There are a lot of sets in the game. There are a lot of champions in the game. There are a lot of tasks in the game that require regearing. I think you're going to get value out of changing up your clan boss team to extend the life of that team, but also you're going to get some value out of all of the champions that you've built by regearing them for specific purposes and stop worrying about stats as much as effectiveness. If stats get you the effectiveness, then stats are great. If the set bonuses get you the effectiveness, then the set bonuses are great. If the team composition gets you the effectiveness, then team composition is where you want to focus. Whatever it is, think about the effectiveness, right? And then once you get the effectiveness that you're looking for, think about, can I be as effective more efficiently? Can I be as effective and lend effectiveness to other champions? You know, holistically look at your account and say, can I improve? Like, even if I rebuild one champion and he doesn't improve at all, if I rebuilt Rathalos and he ended up with the exact same build, but that freed up a Slayer piece that could go on somebody else who then got an extra set bonus and that improved their, you know, it's like, that's also a consideration. Can you do that? Can you increase the effectiveness across the board? All right, so let's take a quick look. Let's take a look at your Hydra team. So have you done your, you haven't done any Hydra keys? Okay. Do you have a Hydra team saved? You do. Okay. Yeah, Duke the Pierce is clearly your Hydra provoker, which is awesome. I do think Tutura Rhymehide can help you in this team. And I actually like your team. I think your team is pretty good. Arbiter brings you that AoE revive, which is really nice. I always try to fit a reviver into my Hydra teams if I can. You get the turn meter fill, you get the increased attack. So this is good. You've got the AoE HP burn with the Rathalos. That's really nice. You've got the decreased speed from Astrid, which is really nice, right? She's bringing... I don't know why you do this. It's driving me nuts. Like, why do you have 60s in your vault? That's just a personal preference. I'm not taking a shot. It's like, okay. So you have the decreased speed with the weaken. The increased speed, increased attack is nice. So this is all really good. This is a fast team. You've actually got 3 champions pushing speed, right? You've got the speed aura, the increased turn meter. You've got the increased speed buff from Astrid. You've got the big increased turn meter from Arbiter plus the revive. So I like this team. I like this team. I think obviously if you had Astrid all the way booked and built to 6 stars, it's going to be stronger. You're going in a good direction with this team. I don't know that you're missing very much. Again, I think Duke the Pierce and Relentless for this particular purpose might help a little bit, right? Because then you're getting, or you could go with a reflex set, try to get back to that provoke a little bit faster. You have to be very fast with this team because this is a 4-turn cooldown on this provoke, and it's only up for 1 turn. So this is tricky if this is your only provoker. That is tricky. I don't know if you have another good provoker anywhere. I wasn't really looking for it before. No. Okay. Yeah, so I think this is a very well-designed team. I like this. I think you've built a good team here. You've got pretty much everything you need, with the exception of an AoE Hex. You have a decreased defense, decreased attack. You have a weaken. You actually have a couple of decreased defenses, a couple of weakens. You've got an AoE slow. You've got AoE. Yeah, you're in very good shape here. HP burns. The thing you're missing is a Hex. You have the provoke. So Head of Mischief is going to cause a problem. Now, here's the thing. This is another thing that the optimizer can't do for you, right? We're thinking about champions. How would we build champions for the Hydra? But some of these champions are also in Clan Boss. So, for instance, if we keep Venus in Clan Boss, right? Or if we bring in Duke the Pierce into Clan Boss, we might build them differently than we would build them for a Hydra. So for instance, Venus has an AoE on 2 different abilities. So she could be a cursed champion. You can put her in a cursed set and get your Hex out there that way, which makes a certain kind of sense, right? All you need is the accuracy and the speed, and like, yeah, you could. I mean, if you can get the damage from her, awesome. But right, the real need here is to get that HP burnout for Rathalos, to get those decreased defense and weaken abilities out there. And, you know, I think she would be the cursed champion. You don't want her in a cursed set for clan boss. So if you decided to go that route for Hydra, you would say, okay, now what that means is the team composition that I'm looking for clan boss is probably not the Venus composition, which might mean it's not the Lanicus composition, which might mean I'm going to Tora and Geomancer and Rathalos. Now I need Rathalos for clan boss. The nice thing about Rathalos is the clan boss build for Rathalos and the Hydra build for Rathalos are probably the exact same build. They probably do perfectly fine in both places. That's not as true for some of these other champions, right? So it's like, oh yeah, if I have the Hydra goal, that adjusts my clan boss team. I don't think that that's necessary here. I don't think that that's necessary here. Like, depends on how hard you're pushing in Hydra. You certainly have the potential to build a different team here. You could go a different direction. I do think Arbiter could come out of this team. You know, it's nice to have an AoE revive. You don't actually have a solution for the Head of Torment, and Tatora does pretty well there. And again, if you wanted the buff extension, you know, that's Lanicus. So it's like now you're starting to shift your Hydra pretty significantly. But I like the team that you've got. I don't think there's a major need to change this. I would just say get Astra to 60, get her booked, and think about putting Duke in either reflex set. Like, if you could get him in reflex and impulse, that would be your best bet. But if you can't get him in reflex and impulse, try to get him in relentless and impulse. Because you want to get back around to that provoke. I'm trying to think if there's any other way. You know, if you take out Arbiter, you lose a bit of your speed. But Tatora gives you a block debuff buff, gives you an increased defense, gives you a veil. The veil helps with the Head of Torment. Tatora also has a shield for himself. He might be able to make him into a mischief tank. Might not matter. I mean, the problem with making him a mischief tank is he puts perfect veil up on everybody else and not on himself. That's pretty tricky. I don't know that I would change this team much. If you do change this team, I would experiment with bringing in Tatora Rhymehyde and pulling Arbiter, and see if you still have the speed. Tatora Rhymehyde and Lanicus is such a nice combo. I was wondering if we could bring in Lanicus and get that ally attack in and get more attacks that way. That would actually help if you had like an A1 provoke, because then you could use the ally attack as a second opportunity to get the A1 provoke on, but you don't. Hey, Aqua Puppy. Welcome to the game. Yeah, a cleanser would be good. We don't really have a great option. I mean, I think the block debuff buff is nice. It doesn't, like, a lot of the Hydra heads have irresistible debuffs, unfortunately. You know, the fears are irresistible. I'm trying to think if the provoke from the Head of Wrath is irresistible, but I don't know. I mean, conceptually, I think you've started in a very good place. And this team can certainly do enough damage for probably normal and hard, no problem. I think you should be able to one key hard with this team on full auto. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. So in terms of getting your Mithrala, you're all set. You just keep pushing. If you wanted to try bringing in Datura Rhymehead for Arbiter, you could try that. You obviously lose the revive. So you have to have enough sustain. I think with Datura and Deacon and Astrid, you have enough sustain. I think you would have enough sustain. But probably once you got up to Brutal, that would stop being true. Congrats, Francis. Dupe Armands is very nice. Yeah, if you have... You're right. Okay, so that's good to know, Mr. Brightside. So that the provoke can be resisted. You have enough resist? So it can probably be blocked, too. That's not always true. Sometimes they can't be blocked, but they can be resisted. That's true with Baumel, right? Like, he has unblockable stuff that can be resisted, which is weird. I think. So, Stark, do you have any questions about Hydra? Yeah, I think you're in a good shape. And I do think Astrid, by the way, Astrid is a great champion. I was thinking about, who would your next 6-star be? And I was thinking about Astrid. The only reason I didn't recommend it earlier is because you have a fully built Deacon Armstrong and an Arbiter. And so she adds something, but it's not a lot of unique quality, right? Because she's very similar to Deacon in some ways, but she does have the decreased speed and the weaken, which is really, really nice. But she has the decreased turn meter and the increased turn meter. The increased attack, that's duplicated by Arbiter. But I do think she could be really valuable to, several teams. And I don't know that, there are any epics who are jumping down at me like, oh, you got to build this one next. You could certainly, 6-star your Armiger if you wanted. Armiger can be very, very valuable in a lot of places. You could 6-star your Ferric in the Fat. You could 6-star your Bellower, get a dedicated campaign farmer. It's going to be a lot faster than whoever you've got going right now, which is probably Elhain, right? Yeah, let's look at your campaign. It's Elhain, yeah. So Elhain's probably running between 15 and 30 seconds, depending. And, Bellower will knock that down to 6 or 7 seconds. Yeah. Stark, I'll say this. I think your account is in good shape, and I think you've been doing good things. As a newer player, I think you're accomplishing a lot. And the concepts that we were talking about with the re-gearing, those are advanced concepts. Right? They're the concepts that push you from mid-game towards the late game. And as a free-to-play player, I think they're incredibly important concepts. That's why I spent so much time talking about them. I think the optimizer, I see this a lot in my takeovers. I think the optimizer can kind of stunt a player's growth and understanding of gearing. The way I look at it is, if you took a really experienced player who had spent a year or 2 years manually building all of their champions, and you gave him the HH optimizer as a tool, they'd be like, oh, thanks, this is going to be hugely helpful, right? Because they have all the expertise now. They have all the knowledge to then use that tool to best effect. But if you give it to a new player, and you're like, oh, hey, here's a shortcut for gearing. They're going to be like, great, I'm going to use that instead because gearing is really complicated and I don't understand it. And as a result, they'll be like, well, I've got this tool that can do it. And they'll never learn the really complicated, difficult process of how to gear. And as a result, you get to a point where 6 months or a year in, you still don't know how to build manually. And that tool now becomes not a tool, right? Now it's something that's holding you back. It becomes a bottleneck. So I would just, and this is not just you, but anybody who's in that situation who really likes the optimizer and has been using it since early in their process, spend some time learning how to manually build not just individual champions, but your roster. Like we were talking about, how understanding what pieces free up and shift around, like what those can do for you conceptually as you try to solve multiple problems simultaneously, as opposed to just one problem at a time. Okay. All right. So I think that's what we're going to call it here. Good luck moving forward. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. Definitely let me know how you're progressing. I would say, just as a quick recap, go ahead and rebuild your Arbiter. Go ahead, rebuild your Arbiter, get additional 10 or 12 speed onto her. That 10 or 12 speed will help you in Clan Boss. I'm sorry, not Clan Boss, in Arena. And it could even help you in like Hydra. If you keep her in Hydra and you're trying to go as fast as possible, more speed on your Arbiter is going to help. That's also going to free up some really good pieces for some other champions to rebuild those champions. And then on that Clan Boss team, try to build some survivability in there. I think Takeover is the way to go. Remember that your Takeover is not booked. So it's not going to be like a magical solution overnight, because you get 2 cooldowns on this A2. That's hugely, like a 5-turn cooldown versus a 3-turn cooldown is massively different in Clan Boss. So like recognize that this might be sort of a long-term process, but you can kind of try it out and see if conceptually it feels like it's making sense. Also here on the Perfect Veil, you get a cooldown, which is really important. Eventually, you'll probably want to speed tune Takeover into a 4-3 speed tune. Or you want to make sure that you have Lanicus extending buffs or somebody else extending buffs. And if you pull an under priest Brogni, you should consider an Infinity team. if you pull an under priest Brogni in the next 3 to 6 months, think about an Infinity Clan Boss team, because you have Lanicus, and Lanicus is incredibly useful in creating an Infinity squad. But you need Brogni to make it. All right. I like seeing, newer accounts come up and players like doing well. This is great. This account is great. I mean, you got really good champs. You got really good champs. This would be a fun account to play. Like, I would take over this account. If somebody was like, hey, do you want to play an account? I'd be like, I don't know. Like, yeah, but what about this account? Be like, double Armands? Yeah. All right. You got Astrid? Lanicus? Tura? Yeah, you got Geo already? You got a Deacon. You got a Deacon. I'm in. Okay. Let's take a look. I don't know if Sun is still here. Okay, it looks like he did, in fact, refresh the message. Okay, so if you haven't done this before and you're looking for a takeover, this is how we do this. You need to be a member of my Discord community. So there is a link in the description of this video. Just click on that. It'll take you to the Discord. On the left-hand side, the column, they have all the different channels and sections of the server. Scroll down until you see the coaching corner. That's this section. Beneath the coaching corner, you're going to see a channel called the Wheel of Takeover. there is a message that you need to react to. Just react to it. You don't type a response or anything. You just pick any reaction you like. That will add you to the wheel. We will spin the wheel, which will randomly choose somebody who's reacted to it, and that'll be the winner of the takeover. If you win the takeover, you want to make sure you have your password and email. So your login information for your account. You want to DM that to me right away so I can start the process of getting into your account. And then you can DM me any requests, what you'd like me to do for the takeover. Sun will give you permission to join the Coaching Voice channel. I would like you to join that channel. Go ahead and mute the live stream because the live stream's on a delay. So you want to hear me in real time so we can communicate back and forth pretty quickly. You're not going to be able to talk in the channel, but you will be able to DM me and hear my voice in real time. And that's it. That's what we're going to do. You can win one takeover per 90 days. You'll get a little roll that'll say takeover winner on your Discord account. And then that'll be up for 90 days. And then it kind of naturally just expires. And then you can win another one. You don't need a microphone. You do not need a microphone at all. All you need is to be able to hear me. So if you have a headset, if you have speakers, and you can hear my voice, that is all you need. You do not need a microphone. Hey, Jen, good to see you. The family is doing well. Family is doing well. The young prince is ruling the roost. He controls our days and our nights. And we are at his beck and call. But he's awesome. He's the best thing. And my wife is doing well. She's still recovering, but in good spirits. And our in-laws are here. My folks are here. So my in-laws, not our in-laws. My in-laws are here. My folks are here. We're getting a lot of help right now, which is very nice. I know not everybody has that help, but it's been critical for us. It's been extremely nice to have people helping us just do the day-to-day stuff that we need to do. Prince Timo. When I do takeovers, is it just you or do you have a team you work on things with? It's me. It's me. Although the Discord community, our Discord community is very knowledgeable. And so I do lean on other players from time to time. I ask advice. I debate things with other members of the Discord community. But when I do takeovers, especially for this, this is live. I do the takeover just with my own knowledge, basically. Yeah, Alex, it's key. You got a Helicath and a Roxum. Well, congrats on the Helicath. My condolences on the Roxum. Although, if you need somebody to flesh out a lizard faction crypt, Roxum's not awful. He's not good though. But Helicath is one of my favorite champions of the game. Absolute beast. All right, we are going to go ahead and spin that wheel. Let's fire it up. Maybe I'll do it. Let's see. See if Sun's here. All right. There we go. I'm spinning the wheel. By the way, it doesn't matter how many times you react. You only get entered once. I've figured it out. It's not my first spin on the wheel. So we've got a previous winner, but he won back in November. So past the 90-day mark. Whoops. Did I lose the Hoax? Hoax won. Hoax 819. Congrats. So Hoax, I did a takeover of your account. Looks like November 7th. All right. All right, looks good. Looks good. Let's see where we stand on daily logins. We are past the 270-day mark, and we're working on Eric, so that you're fairly far in at this point. Because Cleopteryx is gone, the next champion is gone. I forget Eric's is like the 4th or 5th champion, right? So it's significant. So we're a year and a half, maybe, somewhere around there. Congrats, Super Mew. Finished your first Doom Tower. That's always exciting. All right. And you're one of those red dot people. Curse you. Curse you and your red dots. Red dots everywhere. I want to remove all your red dots. That should be a takeover. A red dot removal. That's it. I will go through your index and remove every red dot. How's that? Is that a fair takeover? Do you want that? Does anybody else want that? Eric does. Eric wants it. Oh, God. I mean, look at this. Every single faction's got a red dot on it. It's your birthday. Congrats. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Takeover. that should be the red dot takeover. Listen, it's your birthday. I'll do a special red dot takeover just for your birthday if you want it, Hoax. Just give me a shout. What kind of takeover do you want here? House. I got another poll. I gotta start a poll. All right. Sorry. I'm curious. I'm just curious. We know about the boxes and boxes on this channel. I mean, this is true in life, right? People like boxes, and they want their boxes in their boxes. Oh, I gotcha. All right. So you feel you're stuck in not much progression. Arena looks fine. Dungeons need some assistance pushing up all dungeons to speed farm. Clan boss, not enough damage to one key nightmare. Hydra advise needed to clear normal. Okay. So there are some areas. More than half of the people are like, get rid of the red dots. I want to. I do want to. All right, let's start with Arena because you mentioned Arena first. You think Arena is pretty good. You are in Gold 4. Let's refresh this and take a look. Oh, well, we don't have token. 40 minutes before we get one. Let's see if we have something here. All right, well, you do your work. You definitely do your work. So we can't really look at Arena right now. Okay. But you say Arena is pretty good. I don't want to use gems. You have 219 gems. I'm not going to use gems on Arena. Especially since you said it was okay. I mean, you have Arbiter, so you should be fine. I'll give you a quick suggestion on a team. I'll give you a quick suggestion on a team. This is the exact team I run. The exact team I run in Arena is Arbiter, Deacon, Wukong, and Gembo. That's the exact team I run. Your Arbiter's up over 300 speed at 305. That's pretty good. Your Deacon hopefully is pretty fast. 233, a little slow. So you would need to speed Deacon up. You'd need to get Deacon to about 250 would be good. If you could get him a little faster than that, would be better. But that would be fine. 250 would be fine. And then Wukong can run at Wukong's fine at 220. And then Genbo is actually slow at 202. You would need Genbo at about 220 as well. So like depends on how yeah, I think you could get away with like 215. But that would be a great team. If you prefer, you can certainly use Kaimar instead of Wukong. If you'd rather have Wukong as your nuker because he's kind of built in that direction and maybe doesn't have enough accuracy to be your buff stripper, then you could put him in instead of Genbo and have Genbo kind of come in just for like Leorius's or, you know, Skull Crowns. And then you could use, you know, Kaimar as the setup with Wukong. You could also use like Trunda or somebody. You know, she's a nuker. You could use Rathalos. But this team, Arbiter, into Deacon, into Wukong, into Genbo the Dishonored, is such a good team. It is literally the best team that I think like you are likely to come up with really ever. You have the large speed aura, 30% from Ardor, and the 30% turn meter fill, plus the increased attack. So 1, 2, 3. You get those three things. You get the turn meter fill and turn meter decrease from Deacon, plus the decreased defense, 100% AoE decreased defense. Awesome. You've got the buff strip and the initial nuke from Wukong with the block debuffs. So that's actually 3 more things. And then you've got the nuke from Genbo, who can also self-buff him, so you only need to build him to 70%. Plus, he ignores unkillable. You got like 11 things. You got all these things. So, you know, if you're looking to rebuild him, what I would say is get him down to 70% crit rate. Get him some more speed. And go for like crit damage or something. Or go for, you know, Savage set. You got some Savage gear. You might be able to find a Savage set for him. Kymar has a better speed aura. Kymar's speed aura is the same as Arbiter's. Was I missing something? Arbiter, Kymar, Trunda ×2. Use the gems. You want me to use the gems? How much silver do you have? You only have 1.95 silver. We need to rebuild some champions here. This piece, this chest piece, is the piece you're looking to replace first. It's a defensive, and you have, you know, like, don't worry about the main stats for Arbiter on the piece. You have some clan gold. Okay. I just want to think about this from I mean, this is clearly the best speed chess piece that you have here. Let's see if there's a divine speed. My headset's dying. It doesn't matter. I don't need this. I'm not listening to anybody. I'm gonna get quieter though, because I'm used to yelling with my headphones in. So I don't see any divine. I didn't see any divine speed. Okay. So this one isn't glyphed yet. So you can get an additional up to 8 speed here. Let's see about speed boot, 6-star speed. Again, the divine speed. I mean, maybe the reason that you're holding on to this is because this weapon, is this weapon really good? It's got a double roll in the speed. That's nice, but not necessarily critical. So let's see. There's a speed. Yeah, it's nice for right now. Let's see if there's another piece of divine speed gear that might be. Is Draco in your clan boss team? Draco's not? Okay. What's going on here? I don't... Oh, it's a 5-star piece. Okay. Double roll. I mean, I would roll this. I would roll this and see if maybe we get lucky and we get a speed roll right now. We did. All right, so this is probably, I would do this. You could still get a triple roll here. And then probably get these here. And now you've got two more glyphs to go. Let's look at the 13 speed. We can do better than that, I think. Maybe not. Here's 13 speed. So this still has to get rolled all the way up. So this could potentially replace, you could get more speed here. This is 13 plus 4. So if this rolls, you could do that, right? If not, then not. But so I think with this, with the slight rebuild here, really, even if we just change these 3 pieces, you could get, let's call it 4 speed here and 4 speed here. Even if you don't roll here, that's another 8. You're going to get up to about 316. Maybe you could get lucky with a roll or a glyph, get up to 320. Now that's a really nice place. Now you got to speed up your Deacon. Or your Kymar. I mean, you could also use your Kymar. But if your Kymar is going to go, then your Kymar has to be speed tuned with your Arbiter. And Kymar would have to be, accurate as well. So the stat crunch is a little bit higher for Kymar. Because you're using this to remove all the buffs and place a sleep debuff. So it's like you're using the CC to not have to speed tune the other champions. And so Kymar can be very nice. So you could use him. If you were going to use him, I would probably use him with the double nuke like you're using. And you said you have 2 Trundas? You have 2 Trundas. You're using the double Trunda. So I think that's good. You can do that. The downside of the 2 Trundas is 2 things. One is you don't have any special ability to ignore Stone Skin or Unkillable or, block damage or anything like that. You also have 2 nukers who are the same affinity. So you can potentially weak hit a lot into the same affinity. So you're not going to do great against Force champions like Harima or I think Kandrafon or, there's some of the other Force affinity champions there. Especially those tanky teams that use Pythions and stuff, that can be a problem. So having a nuker who's in a different affinity, that's really why I like Genbo as well, because he's void affinity, so he never weak hits. So you don't have to worry about affinity with him. But yeah. UDK. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think it looks like you're in an okay place, but if you wanted an easier time, I think Genbo does a really nice job. Remember, you don't have to build them to 100% crit rate. Build them to 70% crit rate. That's going to free up a lot of stats for you to then pump your crit damage. You've already got really good crit damage on them, But you don't have to worry about weak affinity. You don't have to worry about unkillable buffs. And you don't have to worry about getting 100% crit rate. He's really nice. He's really nice. You have the double Trunda. Double Trunda is going to help you in Hydra. But yeah, that's literally the team I use. Arbiter into Deacon, into Wukong, into Gembo. I used to use Cardiel, but now my Cardiel's too fast. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at dungeon. Let's do some dungeon stuff. I like dungeons. I really enjoy dungeons. All right, just start in hard mode. Let's see what your stage 25 team is. Nice tanky team with poisons. Block damage. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Not sure about the Ugo. I'm not sure what Ugo is really bringing. She brings a drop defense for the waves, but drop defense can get you in trouble with the boss. Let's look at the Draco for a second. He has a weaken, right? And a decreased defense. So he can also potentially get you in trouble with the boss. Two Sifis and a Yumiko. Nice, Francis. All right, so this is what I like. I'm just going to show you kind of what I like for Ice Golem. Ice Golem's not incredibly important, but okay. Don't have a team I can make here, but this okay. What I like is I like Artak. I love Artak. Artak has a decrease attack, which is what you want on this boss at all times, and he's got HP burns, and HP burns don't activate the nuke. It's an AoE HP burn. It's activatable, so you can burn through those points. And then, so I would definitely swap him in and get rid of Draco. Draco with that decreased defense and that that weaken can be problematic. Now, here's the thing: you could run Draco. You could absolutely run Draco and turn off the A3 on the boss. You know, like just run A1 and A2 and run the poisons, but not really great. So what I would probably do here is go for speed and survivability. I do like an AoE slow on the boss. I like that. I think even a single target slow. So Scylla the Drakes works really well. She can be a slow. You could also bring in Vizix here. It's going to give you some ally protect. It's going to give you an AoE slow on the waves, an AoE provoke on the waves. I would probably go for kind of like Kymar here. We don't really have a lot of sustain. I was thinking about Sanguinia, honestly. I was thinking about Sanguinia, and then just have a speed aura. You don't want the debuffs. You have Stagnate on your alt account. Yeah. I'd probably just run something like this. Not going to be fast, but should be pretty consistent. We'll just see how this goes. 58% of people want to see me clear your red dots. What do you think, Hoax? Do you want a red dot takeover for your birthday? Yeah, Helicath is good. Helicath is good. There's a reason why I pulled out Helicath. A couple of reasons. One is the weaken on the A1. All right, we don't want to weaken on the boss. And two, Helicath can hit hard. I think that we'll have plenty to handle the waves, right? We've got Vizix, who's just a wave goddess, so she's got the AoE provoke, the AoE slow. You've got Artak, who's got a decrease attack AoE, so that's going to help. Plus the AoE HP burns, we're going to burn through that. You've got the AoE stun potential from Seal of the Drakes. We've got Sanguinia, who's going to give us a block debuff buff and some heals and some sustain. And then we get the turn meter fill and speed buff from Haikatun plus the speed aura. And speed is really key to doing well in this kind of stuff. So, like I said, it's not going to be fast because we're not bringing a lot of damage. We're not using like a seer comp to clear the waves. But Artak is more than enough to clear waves by himself. You don't need more than an Artak. So we're going for speed, tankiness, and survivability. And then just let Artak do his thing. And this is, as a free-to-play player, this solution I love because it's relatively friendly. You can bring in champions that are free, like Haikatun and Seal of the Drakes, and Vizix. 3 guaranteed champions that every player gets. If you happen to be around for Artak, then that's another free champion. And then literally the 5th champion can be almost anybody you want who doesn't bring too much spike damage. So you could use another free champion there. You could use Arbiter. You could use Mithrala, who would be awesome. If you have your Mithrala, I would definitely put her in that spot. You get the Hex that's going to help you burn through the waves a little bit faster. You get poisons on the boss. Poisons also don't activate the boss's nuke. You've got the increased defense. You've got the shield. You've got the cleanse. You've got all sorts of things from Mithrala. So Mithrala is absolutely awesome. I probably wouldn't use Lydia unless you were using a seer comp. But yeah, you could use Archmage Helmet. You could use Dark Kale. You could use your starter champion. Like there's so many you could use any of the other login champions, fusion champions. Like there's so many champions that you could put here in the last spot. The reason I put Sanguinia is just for the additional like safety. Like she's not going to hit too hard. She's going to give me a cleanse. She's going to give me a block debuffs. Going to give me some continuous heals. Honestly, you could put food in that 5th spot. You don't need the 5th spot. So. Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to build a team and all the team slots were filled. So I was going to build a team, but I think this is fine just for now. It's really good to have a tanky reviver here. But see, this is why we want the cleanser. And there she goes. She just cleansed that healing debuff, healing reduction off. And, this is slow. It's 4 minutes already. It'll probably end up being like a 7-minute clear. The one thing you could do here, because a lot of champions have pretty good targeting AI for this, is you could bring in somebody here to clean out these ads if you wanted. Or you could bring in if you have another AoE. Oh, I didn't see. Do you have Armands? You could bring in Armands here. Armands could actually be really good. You would lose the cleanse, but the thing is, you don't need the cleanse so much for the boss. You need the cleanse for the ads. And if the ads never go and they're just stun locked, then you're usually in good shape. And Armands could also help with the waves a little bit. Again, we didn't need the help. Yeah, the problem with a strong single target to tear through the ads, Aqua Puppy, is once the ads are down, 2 things happen. One is you don't have the extra HP burn targets for Artak. So Artak starts doing less damage when the ads are dead. And then the second thing is you can, activate the nuke because you have a strong single target attacker So you're gonna activate the nuke on the boss, and the idea here is to not activate the nuke on the boss. Yeah, Armands could replace Armands could replace Sanguinia, I think, first. Or potentially could replace Vizix, you're right. The thing about Vizix is Vizix has that slow for the boss and the turn meter decrease, so you're actually going to get fewer boss regular attacks because see, she's reducing that turn meter on her A1. Now, Armands also reduces turn meter. I don't know. It'd be interesting to experiment with that. They fill similar roles, so you could certainly swap out Vizix and put in Armands. The other nice thing about Vizix, though, is Vizix doesn't care about affinity, right? Armands is going to struggle into force affinity. So, yeah, I like the cleanse. So yeah, it looks like we're going to be around a 7-minute clear here. Again, using the ads as HP burn targets is good. You could manually tell your champions just attack the boss. Like, if you have like a Mithrala, that's a good way to go because you've got so much defense. Like, if you got the decreased attack on the boss and you've got an increased defense or a shield or a strengthen on yourself, you're probably not getting nuked out. At the very least, your Scylla the Drakes isn't getting nuked out. Your Mithrala is not getting nuked out. Your Artak's not getting nuked out. So maybe you lose your High Katoon, but you're going to bring her back, So a little bit longer than 7 minutes. By the way, this won't get slower, really, as you go up. Because the HP burns basically kill everything the same speed, regardless of health pool, right? It's just, that's the way it is. We're not bringing any other damage here. So this is really reliable. It's not fast. It's not fast at all. If you're looking for like a faster clear for, let's say, stage 20, let's say you were looking for, you wanted to nuke this boss out really fast. Then you have a different, thing. You definitely want to decrease attack champion for that. Again, I think Artak is probably good. I would think about bringing in Rathalos because Rathalos and Artak pair really well. The problem here is Rathalos is weak affinity, so go with another strong affinity champ, weaken and a decreased defense. But that's poisons. I don't know. Do we have maybe just go with Trunda. Nuke him out pretty hard. For waves, I don't know. I mean, the way to really speed this up is either have a poison explosion team or a seer comp. So the thing about this, if we wanted to really speed this up, the goal is this. You nuke out the ads and you let the boss hit you with the nuke. You don't care about the nuke. You have a decreased attack on the boss. That's all you need. As long as the ads are down, as long as the minions are down, you don't care. But it can be tricky. It can be tricky because sometimes, you don't get a situation where like you can actually do that the right way. What is this? You could do something like this. Artak's decrease attack though. I mean, this would be funny just to see. I just want to see how fast this would be to get to the boss. You don't have Armand. So, the question is like, are you looking for a team that can farm Ice Golem with food? Because if you want to do that, you could build a solo Artak, or if you don't have a solo Artak and Scylla the Drakes by themselves, just those two champions, could potentially clear this stage 20 with food. That was attractive. Sure. Let's see how fast we can clear. I wasn't that fast. 50 seconds to the boss. So you have the decrease attack. Now, as long as you kill... See, so these champions are targeting the minions, but you have AoEs, and that's the problem. So as long as you kill one of these minions, you're probably fine before you trigger his nuke. But your champions are actually targeting the ads. So here's the nuke. Not too bad. Not too bad. Now the other one's dead. You could trigger the next nuke. I think you actually you might have skipped past a nuke there with the HP burn. We're going to get to the third nuke. Now the thing about this is there is some RNG involved, right? Like when do the there's the nuke. When do the nukes get triggered? But Scylla the Drake, great support, going to keep you going. Would be nice to have like a cleanse. So this doesn't feel that fast, even with the double Trunda, even everybody being strong affinity. We don't have a decreased defense. We don't have a weaken. Oh, there's a decreased defense, right? We do have a decreased defense. We don't have a weaken, though. How do people get Trunda? I got a Trunda like a year and a half ago. I built her instantly because I was so excited to have her, and then I've never really used her in anything. Oh, Scylla the Drakes just died. So now it's on Artak, but we should be fine. This might be safer to do this. I don't know. But you could also just do this. You could do these two with food. Or you could do these 3 with food. Right? And just put in 2. Like this would work fine. This would probably work just fine. How fast does Artak and Scylla need to be? For stage 20, probably not that fast. I would say as long as they're over 210, you're probably fine. And this is why I included High Katoon. So if you're running them at like 190 or 200 or whatever, and you wanted a little bit more speed, just put in Scylla the Drake. Just put in High Katoon, and you're going to hit the speeds you need. But you'll see how fast this will be. This will not be super slow. So, the HP burns are going to be good. You got the AoE decrease attack, so if they do get a turn, they're not going to hit that hard. You've got the sustain from Syl and the revive in case anybody dies. You've got the speed boosts. You've got the AoE stun from Syl. Like, the really nice thing about Ice Golem is that slow and steady is like what you want. And that's where free-to-players live, right? Slow and steady, just reliability. We don't have crazy gear. We don't have all of the best champions. We don't have the best combos. We can't make the, Kayamar, Theodore, we don't have all of those crazy teams for clearing stuff out. But Artak is awesome, and he pairs beautifully with Scylla of the Drakes. There is a downside, which is that if you're trying to progress through stages, they struggle into force affinity. But this is a spirit affinity boss. Stage 20 is a spirit affinity boss. Beautiful. Like, look at this. This is going to be nearly as fast as the double Trunda team we were just running. We were running double Trunda with Royal Guard, and what did it take? It took like almost 3 minutes, right? Like, this is probably going to clear it I don't know, 30 seconds slower or something. So, you know, Artac's really, really good for Ice Golem. Any AoE HP burner, preferably one with activation, is good. Sissia can be a little bit tricky. She's weak affinity here, but the other thing is you usually build her with 100% crit rate, you know, a lot of crit damage. And that's not what you want. You just want the HP burns. Drang can be good. His activation is a single target. So, you know, it's not as fast as Artac. Same issue. Skrank is the same issue as like Sissia, but Mordecai works great. He doesn't have the activation, so it's a little bit slower. You can use somebody like Ninja, but again, that's usually 100% crit rate. So like Artac really is the best champion for this. Sulfurion might be, I don't know, I don't have Sulfurion, but Sulfurion might be better. I could see that potentially being better. Because you have a Reviver as well, right? So it's like even if Scylla the Drakes dies, then Sulfurion can bring back Scylla the Drakes. But I really like Artac's passive, and I like the decreased attack. All right, so this is a little bit slower than I thought it was going to be, but not too bad. Yeah, Chronom is the same issue as Ninja, right? Like you don't always want an HP burner who also has 100% crit rate. The thing about Artac is he's a tank. He's an HP-based champion. He's got that passive that makes him tankier. So people tend not to build him with 100% crit rate, which is good. You don't want to. You want to build him really survivable. So that's why he's the best one for this, because he's not going to likely activate the boss with his direct damage. And if he does, he's tanky enough to maybe survive the hit with that decreased attack out. So, you know, here we're looking at a 4-minute clear. But you could run this with food, you know. That's not a great gauntlet, by the way. Doesn't have crit rate on it, or speed, or accuracy. But I'll let you decide if you want to throw it out. So, you know, I don't know that you have a team that's going to clear this particular dungeon really fast. But you do have a nice team for farming it with food for tournaments. I think Syl and Artac by themselves, like, I think even there, Haikatoon might not even be necessary. Like, let's go look at your Artac and your Syl. Artac's running at 254, more than fast enough. He's got the regen. You know, the Righteous is fine. It's HP and resistance. You got decent resistance. I don't think your resistance is high enough. I think your resistance needs to be like 355 or something in order to... You're at 320. But you also don't want to drop your accuracy. So, yeah, you know, what you might want to do over time is get this as an HP percentage chest plate. You know, but obviously speed, accuracy all matter. But, you know, 72k HP, 254, maybe not. This is a really well-built Artac. This is a very well-built Artac. The only thing is I think you have a lot of resist, which is still shy of probably where you need it to be. And that's just unfortunate because it may be that your pieces land you there. You know, this is a great gauntlet. And so this might just be this might just be the best chest plate that you have in the Righteous set to put with this and get that speed that you want, you know. So it's an excellent build. I really wouldn't worry too much about this build. So yeah, that should be enough. And then let's look at Syl of the Drakes. All right, Syl's pretty good. Low HP, right? HP is only 37,000. High defense at 5k. Decent speed at 230. That's fine. Accuracy is good at 323. So the only thing I might think about is if you have two defensive pieces, like maybe get look for an HP percentage gauntlet or chest plate. You know, you could get into 6-star speed booster. If you could pick up another 10 speed, great, but it's fast enough. Fast enough at 231. Good accuracy, right where you want to be. So again, good builds. I think this is enough. I think these two could duo Ice Golem pretty well. These two, by the way, could duo everybody, potentially. You might be able to duo all 4 dungeons. No, I'm sorry, 3 dungeons. You can't duo Fire Knight. But you could potentially duo Spider, Ice Golem, and Dragon with these 2 champions. So yeah, same thing here. Now this is, this is a little bit tricky because this is bad affinity for Syl and Artak. For pushing Dragon, you don't need. It's almost the same thing as Ice Golem. Slow and steady wins the race. You need a cleanser or a block debuff champion or both. Hellcat's not bad here. You like the weaken. You can bring more damage for this. You do want to decrease attack champion. Sanguini is weak affinity, but she might have to come in. And Deliana's an option. She's got a leech. Yeah, I don't build Artak with 100% crit rate. You can. But if you're going to build him as a solo champion, generally he does the most of his damage comes from the HP burn. There's very few reasons you would ever need extra damage from him. You can. Let's see. I like Trumbor. Your Trumbor built? Got a weaken and leech. Wish you had Vector Draft, but you need a more reliable decrease attack than that here anyway. All right, so we're gonna leave Artak in here, and then I think, let me see how your Delion is built. Her accuracy is a little low. But it might work because I forget, does the passive kicks in game, right? So we don't see it in the stats. So the boost to accuracy comes afterwards, right? So we're looking at another 30 something accuracy, which would be enough. We could also bring in Vizix again. But Vizix will die. We could bring in this guy, Razin. We could bring in... just go with Rathalos. Screw it. Let's just do Rathalos. For a Nightmare Clan boss, how much defense should you aim for? You don't need that much defense. It really depends. If you're building an unkillable comp, you don't need any defense, right? If you're using defensive based damage dealers, or use a Valkyrie who, like, her shield scales off defense, and you want as much defense as you can get. So it really depends. But if you're looking for like a support champion, let's say you're running a regular support, like a healer. Let's say you're running Rector Draft. Then yeah, maybe around 3k defense. If you're running an ally protector, then maybe 4k defense. You know, if you're running a Valkyrie, like 6k defense. So the thing that I chose here was, I just decided to stay with the Artak for a couple of reasons. One is he's built really well. He's tanky. Reason two, he's got the decreased attack, which is helpful. And he's got the HP burn, which is going to empower Rathalos. So it's going to help with the waves. So my hope is to just push past this dungeon and get to, you know, a later dungeon. I don't need poison. Poison can be fine. I honestly don't. I don't really care about the source of damage so much. I care about the team composition, right? So the one thing that we're lacking here is a cleanse. We don't have a cleanse, so we're gonna get stunned. But Scylla the Drake's passive works regardless of if he gets stunned, which is another reason why it doesn't matter if she's weak affinity. As long as she doesn't take so much damage, she dies. Helikath is going to help us with the shield and the block damage buff. He's not landing his weaken. I don't know if he has enough accuracy. I was bringing him kind of for the weaken as well. Again, that's going to save us from some of the poison damage. We don't have a decreased attack out, and he does have an increased attack up. Could be bad. There's the weaken. Not that much damage, so we did fine. Okay. So that's his hardest hit, right? He had the increased attack up. He didn't have a decreased attack on. So that's literally as hard as he's going to hit. The poisons can mess with us. You know, and that's where the block damage buff actually really helps, or the shield buff, because those both absorb the poison damage as well as direct damage. And then Scylla the Drakes just keeps everybody alive and moving. But this isn't going to be fast. It's going to be slow. But again, this is where Artak's weak affinity. And Rathalos is not strong affinity. He's just neutral affinity. And because Artak's HP burn is what actually empowers Rathalos to be strong, if he misses the HP burn because he weak hits, then Rathalos is not going to hit that hard. I thought about bringing Sanguinia in again, but because she's weak affinity, I just decided not to go with it. So yeah, this will be, I don't know, maybe a 5-minute clear. If you can have 7k, why not? There's a diminishing return on defense. So think of it this way. Each 100 defense that you add to your stat reduces incoming damage by less than the previous 100 defense. Right? So let's say the previous 100 defense reduced your damage by 1%. The next 100 defense will reduce it by 0.8%. And the next 100 defense will reduce it by 0.72% or whatever. You know, it's like, so there's a diminishing returns, basically. And yet stats are all equally accessible. So there's actually something called effective HP, EHP, which is the measure of your HP calculated with your defense to determine how much actual HP, like damage, you could take, you could survive. So there's a balance between HP and defense. You don't need a lot of defense past a certain point. Now, if you have a defense-based champion who does damage based on defense, that's different, right? So sometimes it's worth pushing that a little bit, because even though it's not increasing your survivability as much as, say, more HP would, it is in fact also pushing your damage. And there's a third consideration. If there's any mechanic in the fight that ignores defense, then defense can be a completely useless statistic. Some attacks ignore 100% defense, like the Ice Golem's nuke. If he has both of his minions up, he ignores 100% of your defense. Defense won't, save you. HP will. So, HP is the better tanky stat than defense. High defense helps defensive nukers, just like high attack helps attack-based nukers. So now we can probably just pull out Rathalos. Maybe put in Dracomorph. So if you're looking to speed up your dungeon run, and this is true for everybody. Your first most common, most desirable tactic is to build a wave clear comp that then probably dies to the boss, and then you have like one champion solo the boss the rest of the way, or you have a wave clear comp that hits so hard it just crushes the boss. That would be optimal, right? Like you just destroy the boss. So think of like a wave clear comp with let's say Seer and Kymar, where they're just crushing out the waves. And then you get to the boss and you have like a double newt, and the newts just crush the boss, right? Like that kind of thing. So you would have to have very specific champions in very specific gear at very specific speeds, and plan the AI, and then you can clear a dungeon like this in a minute or 30 seconds maybe. I don't know how fast dragon clears get. My fastest clear is like 90 seconds. Maybe a little bit faster with my Seer comp. I think it's about 90 seconds. Maybe it's under a minute now. I forget. But anyway, so that's the sort of meta, right? Which is to have either Poison Explosion or a Seer comp. Those are the two fastest ways to clear waves. After that, if you don't have that option available to you, you have a couple of other things that you can do. One is you can utilize strong affinity to improve the amount of damage you do and reduce the amount of damage you take, so that you can bring in more DPS, basically. So you're going into Spirit Affinity, so bring as many Magic Affinity champions as you can. That means you don't need as much sustain in the team, and you can just focus on bringing damage in whatever ways that works, and that helps. Another thing that you can do, other than utilizing affinity to your advantage, is you can reduce the number of champions that you bring into the dungeon. Fewer champions means fewer animation, fewer turns, right? So if you can have one or two champions do the same job as like 5 champions, they may actually do it faster or close to as fast because they simply take fewer turns. CC champions also work this way. If you can lock the enemy out so that the enemy never gets a turn, there are fewer animations to deal with, and that reduces your overall time. So, here we just did 249. That was significantly faster than the previous stage 4, right? Because we had the weak affinities going in there. That's not awful. But so this is where I'm talking about like affinity. Now, when you come up against a void affinity, obviously you can't use strong affinity to your advantage. I also think here Dracomorph is more helpful than Rathalos, because we didn't have the 100% HP burns up, And this brings a weaken. Another weaken. Yeah. So, my goal typically is, like, if I want to get to stage 10 here and farm this, I'm hoping to do this in like under 4 minutes. If I'm clearing this in 2.5, that feels fast. If I'm clearing this in like a minute 40, that's super fast for stage 10. You don't necessarily need that. Again, if you are farming any of the dungeons for tournaments, stage 20 of normal is the most efficient in terms of energy. Like, this is where you're going to want to farm. You're going to get only 5-star and 6-star drops, so you get good silver. It's really efficient in terms of points for both dungeon divers and tournaments. It's not the most efficient. There are more efficient places, but you got to go down to like stage 3 and stuff. Like, who wants to do that, right? So this is a really, really good balance. You're probably going to be here, and you're clearing it in a minute 40. Could you speed that up? A little bit, maybe. All right, what will we use here? Honestly, I'd probably keep Deacon. And then, you know, you could bring a Trunda, you could bring a Draco, you could bring a Kymar. You know, but again, you could also just run this team. Run him with food. You might be able to do it with a solo Artak. You had a regen set on him. He might be able to solo this dungeon. And that would give you a chance to like triple dip with champion training. So, you know, as your Artak's built, let's try this. Let's just see if as your Artak's built, he can clear this. He might be able to. He might not, because it depends on and he doesn't have an immortal set, so he just has the regeneration set. It's going to depend a little bit on speed. If I were going to run him without an immortal set, I would probably want to run him up around 280, and he's at 256 in terms of speed, I think. But it might be enough. You know, and if you can run him, depending on his masteries, if you can run him with food and you get speed when the food dies, you know, you're going to get more speed out of him that way too. So I'm not running him with food right now. Do you mean area bonuses or do you mean arena coins? Man, he's got to burn through this apothecary. Yeah, apothecary on stage 20 is just annoying. We might not have enough damage to burn through this apothecary. You can't weak hit. I mean, you can't miss the HP burn. Have to have the HP burn up. Look at this apothecary. You can use this on your own, by the way. Apothecary can be like a crazy solo champion or duo champion. He works really well with Wukong. Missed the HP burn. There it is. All right, so the thing about this is even if we get through this is now just too slow. Now, you know, there are other ways to make this better. You know, so again, Scylla the Drakes has the AoE stun, right? So if she's got enough accuracy, she's going to stun the apothecary, and then you're going to burn through him, you know, and maybe she could land the slow on him. He's not going to get as many turns. You could use a high Katoon who's going to increase, you know, the speed and potentially can decrease turn meter. Or a Deacon who's going to get a decreased defense out there. Even if he's weak affinity, you know, you're going to get that out there. This is annoying. Forgot about this. I forgot how annoying this is. My Artak is in a stun set, so he never has this issue. And I don't run him solo. I run him as a duo because he doesn't have the sustain. So it's just like you get the stuns from Scylla the Drakes, you get the stuns from Artak's stun set, and it's just like no problem. I forgot how annoying this apothecary is. Yeah, also if you have a brimstone blessing. Brimstone. You have a brimstone. If you have a Brimstone Blessing, that could help. I mean, Cruelty also helps. There's a bunch of stuff that helps. You could have a Reaper, right? That would help. Looks like we might be able to burn this guy down eventually. Come on. This is highly annoying. All right. I'm not going to make y'all watch this any longer. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. All right. So that's not going to work on stage 20, but might work on stage 24. You know, where he's strong affinity, right? Because you're not going to have an apothecary on stage 24. And he might be able to do stage 24. But again, you know, depending on how your RTAC is built, let's go look at RTAC for a second. Yeah, so here's another thing. You know, you're running flawless execution. Now, you're not running 100% crit rate RTAC, and you're running flawless execution, which doesn't make sense. You don't want those two in combination. If you're going to run flawless execution, you need RTAC at 100% crit rate, or it doesn't make sense. So what I would do here is I would probably put him in War Master. War Master is the more reliable solo build damage. So that's what I would do. Now you have the option to like not run him in offense, or not run him with a offense capstone. So you could like not run this, and you could run Eagle Eye, you know, or you can run Oppressor. Oppressor is actually pretty good because it's for each active debuff he gets extra speed, right, or turn meter fill really, and he's always going to have a lot of debuffs out there because his HP burn and his decreased attack. So you can run him in Oppressor to get more speed out of him. You can run him with Spirit Haste if you're running him with food to get more speed out of him. So you can go that way. Obviously, this is the Master Hexer that you do want. You do want Master Hexer on him, but you know you could potentially not go 2 buffs in or 2 masteries in offense, and you could say run Spirit Haste and Master Hexer, and then come down here to Oppressor or Eagle Eye. Oppressor is really interesting on him. So it's either Eagle Eye or Oppressor. But if you are going to continue running him in the offense tree, I would definitely get out of Flawless Execution, and I would put him into War Master. That's how I run mine. I run mine in War Master. I run mine offense and support. But, you know, again, with Artak as a solo champion, the most important thing is that he survives, and the second most important thing is that he lands his HP burns. As long as those two things happen, as long as he has accuracy and the stats he needs to survive, and the survival will come from 2 places. It's his HP and his speed, not his HP and his defense, right? Like, defense is helpful, but defense isn't critical. Speed and HP are really important. And there's a couple of reasons why, but one of which is that, you know, this increases this champion's defense by 1% for each 1% of their destroyed max HP, and the champion's speed and resistance by 2 for 1% of their destroyed max HP. So he'll get even faster, and he'll get tankier, right? So his defense gets increased anyway. So you don't need a ton of defense on him. If you're running him with 3,000 defense like you are, that's more than enough. You could run him with 2,400 defense. It would probably be enough. You know, if you're looking at like 80, 90k HP and 260 speed or so. So, you know, there's some tweaks you could make to Artak here. What's his blessing, by the way? Miracle Heal. I would get him out of Miracle Heal. The only benefit The only time he heals himself is on this passive is if his HP burn fails. The miracle heal is really not useful. I would say as a blessing, you have several good blessings for Artak. So let's just kind of run through them. I think that two of the most common are cruelty. Cruelty decreases the defense of all the targets, right? So everything that gets hit loses defense. Because he's an AoE champion, that means he can decrease the defense of a whole wave or decrease the defense of a boss. This can be especially useful if he's soloing because it's like he does more damage with every hit. It's okay. It's okay. Another one is Soul Reap. Soul Reap, again, is nice because he hits everybody, so when they get to the target threshold, they just die, right? The Reaper comes in and smacks them. So this can be really nice. Brimstone is great for bosses because the bosses are going to get turns. His idea is to survive the boss's turns. So when they use their active skills, they take a Brimstone or a Smite to the face, right? And so this can be really useful. Another thought could be emergency heal. Emergency heal, if you have a blood shield ring on him, like if he's a solo champion, he's trying to survive through regeneration. This is an additional way to get more regeneration on him. 9% for every shield that gets broken. You need a blood shield ring on him for it to work because he doesn't bring a shield otherwise. But if you're struggling with survival, this would be one potential way to go. So Brimstone increases damage. Soul Reap increases damage. Cruelty increases damage. But Emergency Heal increases survivability. So if he is not tanky enough, you've got a nice 5-star blessing on him. You could be getting 9% heal every turn that he's attacked. Like when his shield is broken, you get 9% heal. That's almost adding a Guardian set, right? Like a Guardian set is 10% heal. So it's like adding a Guardian set in terms of regeneration. Or it's like adding 3 Immortal sets. So, I personally, especially with 5 stars, I lean towards Smite because you've got a protected Smite, which could help you in several boss fights. That's really nice. So I like Brimstone. So if I were going offense, I would probably go Brimstone. I do like Soul Reap a lot. I think Cruelty is more like a Hydra thing. Like if you're going to run them in Hydra, Cruelty is really nice because you can probably bring in another Brimstone. And this is an AoE attack that's going to reduce the defense of every Hydra head simultaneously, and you're talking about 15% defense. So that's a nice decrease. And then for tankiness, Emergency Heal. That's probably how I would go. So for solo, probably Brimstone. By the way, I don't think Smite activates Ice Golem, the nuke either. So I think if you're soloing or duoing Ice Golem, I think Smite's totally fine there too. So yeah, I like those blessings for him instead, but Miracle Heal is not really helping. Okay, let's look at Fire Knight. Yeah, you're good. You don't need any help here. The Wukong is primarily wave clear here. And you're not getting like a lot of extra hits out of him. You could potentially bring in your Trunda or your Artak or your Draco or somebody else to do more wave damage. Archmage Helmet. You probably want more wave damage than Wukong is bringing. I don't know. How's your Wukong built? Savage. Pretty good. Gonna do some damage. How's Trunda built? She's going to hit harder, but she's slower. She's significantly slower. She's going to hit a lot harder. Probably going to do, yeah, going to do more damage than Wukong. So, you know, again, here, think about strong affinity, right? Like if you're doing stage 25, you want to bring in a magic affinity damage dealer. If you're doing stage 20, then Wukong makes sense. Now you want your spirit affinities. In this case, you might end up pulling your Royal Guard for somebody else. I know that quad hitter is hard to replace, so you know that becomes a question. But maybe you bring in Razin, right? Razin gives you a triple hitter, gives you the weaken, the decreased defense. You don't have a weaken here, so that's going to speed up the damage that you do. You don't have a reliable slow here because your slows are coming from weak affinity champions. So there's going to be a lot of RNG there. Let's see. Like, who do you have as a slow? So, yeah, I mean, Vizix is always great. You could bring in Vizix. Vizix is going to be good with the turn meter control, too. So I would probably, I'd probably pull Royal Guard and put in Vizix. Wukong's going to be your primary wave clear. You could also, I was going to say you could put in Vizix and pull out Allure, but yeah, do you have a Cold Heart? Somebody mentioned Cold Heart. You have 2 Allures. No Cold Heart. Cold Heart is very good, and she's perfect for Fire Knight. Normal Fire Knight. Sanguinia is also very good for Fire Knight. Triple hitter on her A1. She's got the block debuffs if the boss does get a turn. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, again, use the affinity to help you. So Royal Guard here is really the wrong affinity to help you wave clear or kill the boss. So if you can find a Spirit Force or Void affinity damage dealer, that's where you want to go. I mean, maybe Magnar, depending on how he's built. Or you could go with like a Vizix who's got the slow and the turn meter control, and then just slow and steady wins the race. Unfortunately, for Fire Knight hard mode, it doesn't look like you're there yet. So we need freezes here probably, right? Now you do, yeah, you do have Shiramani who's good, but unfortunately you don't, doesn't look like you have much of anybody else. So this is not going to be super easy. Now you do have, what's this guy's name again? Is Durandel or whatever his name is? Durandel. So he's an option. He's not great. 30% chance to freeze twice if he crit. So I think you got to wait a little bit on this. Unfortunately for Shiramani, she can't freeze more than once, even though she has a triple hitter on her A1. She can only freeze one time because it's random. It's not each hit. It's coded differently. I don't think you're quite there for this. Yeah, you do have your option for your Carl, right? How close are you to your Carl? He's not unlocked in your clan yet, so you may have no fragment for. You've got 20 fragments. Yakara will help solve that Fire Knight problem in the long run. Yeah. Yeah, so the team I'm thinking of here is Arbiter into Deacon, into Wukong, into your nuker. Genbo's probably the best choice. This is the composition I love. This is that's the team I run. Team I run on my account. It crushes. It obliterates. It used to be Arbiter, Deacon, Cardiel, and Genbo. But honestly, I think the Wukong's actually a better synergy. The nice thing about Cardiel is Cardiel's a great solution for Ultimate Death. Because you get the ally attack and you just crush out Ultimate Death Knight. But Wukong is a better overall arena champion because of the buff strip and the block debuff. So again, this would require a little bit of speed tuning, but you can get there. And I do think it's going to be valuable to you to pick up another 10 speed on your Arbiter, which I think you can do as well. You're in a really good place at 305. But what I have found is that there has been inflation over time in terms of the speed needed for Gold 5 for your Go First teams. So 2.5 years ago, when I first hit Gold 4, before there was a Gold 5, I did it with I had a Go First team with a high Katoon who was running at 275, 280. And when I got my Arbiter, she started at 305, probably somewhere around where you've got 306, 308, something like that. And I was winning 90% of the speed races. My Arbiter is now running at close to 370 and still winning only about 90% of the speed race. So in the last 2.5 years, the top Go First Gold 5 speed has increased from about 300 to 370, something like that. And if you want to push plat, you used to be able to push plat at 360, and now you need 410 to push plat. So it's, the more speed you can get on it, the better off you are if you're going to use a Go First team. Otherwise, you could always go the other way. Just use a Go Second team and it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter how fast you go if you're building the proper Go Second team. So. I don't use control. Are you asking? You could use Kymar. You could use Kymar instead. Absolutely. That's a viable option. You can go Arbiter into Kymar. Now, the stats for Kymar have to be high because he needs the accuracy on top of the speed, right? But the upside of this is that it alleviates the speed burden for your third and fourth champion because of the sleep, right? By placing the sleep, you're allowing the enemy to go, lose their turn based on the sleep, and then you go. Two downsides to that is the stat burden on Kymar, and then the second downside is he will weak hit into Force Affinity. So it's not as universally workable. The thing about Wukong that's really nice is, again, he's also Affinity, right? So into Magic Affinity, he's not going to always land his buff strip, but he always lands damage. His damage is always better than Kymar's, right? If you built this guy decently at all, he's going to remove the shield just through damage, or he's going to remove 20 or 30 or 50% of the enemy's HP, even if he doesn't buff strip, right? So that's hugely valuable. So if I had to go with, one or the other, I would rather go with Wukong. In addition, you have this skill, right? Which says if the initial target survives, places a sheep debuff on them for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be blocked, which is really useful against a block debuff's buff. It can be resisted, by the way. It can be resisted, but it can't be blocked. So you can throw this onto somebody with Stone Skin. You can throw this onto somebody with with a block debuff buff, and so that's also a nice like option there. It also hits really hard. This can mean a second nuker. You know, so when you're talking about Wukong I think is the better champion for Arena than Kymar. Stat requirements are still decently high for Wukong, but he just does more than Kymar does, I think, in terms of his overall kit for Arena specifically. Now, Kymar has the reset, right? That's really a PvE skill. You can use it in PvP, but it's more of a PvE skill. And so I think he's the more valuable champ outside of PvP, but I actually think Wukong's the better PvP champ. And he synergizes with more stuff, which is nice. Yeah, that's how I use him, LFC. You don't use him as a control champ so much as a utility champ. Right? Like Kymar's more of a control champ because this is an AoE sleep. That's actually a crowd control. That's what control means, right? Either turn meter control or CC. That's what a control champ does. Right? Wukong doesn't do either of those except for the sheep. So you can use him as a sheep, but again, you know, this is less. The block buffs and the buff steals, this is not control, this is utility. And so I think he's got more utility. You know, he's a high utility damage dealer. I can't tell you how many times I have totally dominated a live arena fight for like 5 or 6 rounds. And finally, because I just can't quite close the deal, their Wukong comes back full health and nukes my entire team out with one hit. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've lost live arena that way. This guy can hit really, really hard. And it's this A2 because it ignores 50% of the target's defense. And it's just like spreads that damage. It's so freaking hard. And because he comes back, you know, just ready to go, it's like if you just aren't lucky or if you're not really precise in your turn meter control and like your not just your turn meter control, but your turn order control, Wukong can end your fight with one hit. So, okay. So, Hoax, how are you doing, buddy? Are you set here? Do you think you have some things to work on? I think the reason, you know, one of the reasons that you're seeing slowdown of progression is you've hit that place in the game where the progression does slow down. But the other thing is now you're really looking to optimize individual champions and you're looking to optimize team composition. You know, you need to utilize the affinities to your advantage. You need to utilize, you know, all the debuffs to your advantage and make sure that you have the stats on everybody that they need to have for the content that they're going into. And like I said, I think, you know, looking at your Artak, well built, but like this flawless execution, you know, stands out as a miss, right? This is a miss on this guy. So you move him from there into War Master, that's closer to optimized. You know, if you take some of these masteries in the offense tree and you put them over here in the support tree, maybe you get Spirit Haste. Maybe, you know, like, maybe you get a little bit more out of that. If you're looking for, you know, additional accuracy, you've got Swarm Spider here. There are ways to get, you know, there's ways to get more speed, there's ways to get more damage, ways to get more survivability. Same thing with his blessing. His blessing is a bit of a miss here, you know, so good, but still that little bit of extra optimization, that little bit of min-maxing that's going to take him from, you know, S tier status to God tier status on your roster. Yeah, I mean, you got a good roster. You got a really good roster. You got what you need. And I do think you have, you know, some champions that you could potentially build down the line who could be interesting for you. I like Morgaine, by the way. I think she's going to be useful. I mean, Shermani's great. Lanatharil's actually really solid, too. good roster, man. You're doing fine. You're doing just great. You got a Ruella here. Rector Drath is really nice. Got a Stultus. Didn't even really look at that. By the way, this clan boss, because we didn't really talk about this, but this clan boss team, I'll say this. I love Scylla the Drakes. I think she's phenomenal. She's a subpar clan boss champion. The only thing she brings to a clan boss fight is the sustain, right? The heals and the revive. So I think potentially, you could get a lot out of this team by finding another way to sustain your team. I would seriously consider bringing in Draco into your clan boss team. He's probably your best clan boss damage dealer. I know he's not booked, but you're going to have the poisons, the weaken, the decreased defense. You get this. I mean, you get a lot of good stuff out of Draco Morph. You have a leech from Deacon. I mean, you have the counterattacks. Oh, that's one of your alt accounts? Oh, yeah, you've got the Helicath, right? Okay. Helicath is the way to go. Go unkillable with Helicath. Yeah. There is probably, not probably, there definitely is a Helicath composition that you can use with a reset champion. I know you can use him with Renegade. I don't think you can use him with Painkeeper, but you might be able to use him with Kymar. It's pretty fast. You have to run Helicath at like 260 or 270, I think, to make it work. But it allows you to bring in 3 damage. So you can bring in Draco. You could bring in, I don't know, maybe Rathalos and no, maybe not Rathalos. I think of how you get HP burn, but you could bring in a couple of extra damage dealers. You will need a block debuff buff. I think you have to have a block debuff buff. But that can work really well. So you'll get there. And if you get a second, block damage champion or a second unkillable champion, then you're done there too. So yeah, you could do it with Skull Crusher, and you'll go full unkillable. Helicath and Skull Crusher. So you should get there. Just make sure that when you're running that, if you're running Helicath to land his A1 weaken, you need accuracy. And if you're going to run him in Brimstone, you also need accuracy. And I think the accuracy you need for Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss is 250? I think it's 250. So if you're not going to run him for the weekend, then get them out of brimstone, right? Because you're not going to have the accuracy to land the brimstone either. And you can go ahead and put them in cruelty, or you can put them in whatever else you want, anything that you think is going to, you know, provide value. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think you're going in the right direction. It's just about optimization. You know, if you have questions about particular champions or particular usage, go ahead and do a search for videos in my channel. I've covered a lot of this stuff. I've talked about Artak as a solo champion and as an HP burner. I've covered HP burns as a, you know, in a video. I've talked about speed tunes, unkillable speed tunes for clan boss, you know, stuff for Hydra, all sorts of things. So dig into the library. There's a lot there. I haven't covered everything. I would definitely check out, you know, Nub Raids, MTG Jedi's got some cool stuff. Tyraku's got some really good stuff. So if you're looking for like, check out HH Gaming and Saf's stuff. If you're looking for explanations or you're looking for like ways to optimize champions, those are really good content creators that I've, you know, seen over the years who do interesting stuff with that and also kind of explain it a little bit. Most people don't focus too much on explanation, but I think some of those guys do better explanations than others. You know, Tyraku I really like. He explains stuff a little bit more, and Nub as well. So, you know, you've got the champions to push past where you are. It's grindy. You're in a grindy spot. There's no avoiding it. One last tip I can give you is, you know, if you're doing live arena, come in here, get these arena area bonuses where you need them. You know, it looks like you're already doing that. So again, you're doing a good thing here, but every little bit helps. Don't forget to focus on health. HP is it's your tanky stat. HP is the tankier stat between HP and defense. Defense is okay. HP is much better. So don't forget your HP. And the nice thing about HP is it's going to work, you know, even better for like your attack-based champions as well. Works better than defense because their HP pools tend to be better than their defenses. But and if you need speed, like for the dungeons, you're less concerned about speed tuning. For Ice Golem's Peak, Fire Knight's Castle, Dragon's Lair, Spider's Den, go ahead and get the speed, right? Go ahead and get it for Doom Tower. Go ahead and get it for Iron Twins Fortress. The one place you want to watch out for is in the Demon Lord battle. This is probably where you don't want speed if you're speed tuned, because you don't want it to mess up your speed tune. But if you're going to redo a speed tune and you're okay like getting free speed here, go ahead and do it. But speed in the dungeons is really useful, especially Fire Knight and Spider's Den. These two, you really need speed as much as possible. But you're doing great. All right, Hoax, I hope that was helpful. Hopefully I'll see you in another 4 months or so and you'll get another takeover and we'll see where you stand. But you're doing absolutely wonderfully. Level 87. Thanks everybody. I've enjoyed the conversation today. A lot of feedback on the stuff, the takeovers that we were doing today. Sorry if I'm a little bit out of it. Sleeping like 4.5 hours a night. We're in baby time. Baby time is a weird time. But yeah, I gotta go relieve my wife, hang out with my son, have some dinner, and try to enjoy the rest of my week. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Watch out for videos coming this week. If you haven't already, like the stream, please. Smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Consider joining our Discord community. If you didn't join our Discord community today, I don't know what you're doing, because you have to be a member of the Discord in order to win a takeover. And we'll be back next week doing that. Sundays may be Sunday fun days for a while. So my editor, whose name is Sun, or Aaron, aka Aaron. Yeah, like let me show you a picture of Aaron. There's my editor right there. So he'll be around on Sundays. But he did get a new job recently, so his schedule is up in the air. Anyway, yeah, thanks so much for hanging out. I guess that's it. I'll see you soon.